Rockville. Today is July 14, 2025, and we're convening meeting 18-25. Please join me as you're able in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I know it's wet and rainy outside, but it's bright and sunny in here and dry. So thank you all for being a part of this evening. We have several proclamations and certificates of recognition, and I'm going to ask my colleagues to join me in the front. Please be patient with us. We have a lot to celebrate this month in terms of some of the folks who have planned events, as well as some student achievers, and so we're excited to be able to recognize all these proclamations and recognition. So there'll be a lot, and then we'll take a brief break and continue on with our meeting. Let's join me in the front.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. I am very excited that I get to kick off this evening's recognitions and proclamations with the proclamation declaring July 17th as Maddie J.T. Stepanek Peace Day here in Rockville. It is one of the brightest, most special things about our city, and I'm excited to be able to talk about it today. I won't say too much because I'm sure Mama Peace will be able to tell us more about the events, but I will get the proclamation going. Whereas Maddie J.T. Stepanek was an American poet, ambassador, and advocate for peace in our world. And whereas at the age of 3, Maddie started to write poetry, which he referred to as his heart songs, enabling him to cope with a rare and fatal form of muscular dystrophy, a disease that also claimed the lives of his sister and 2 brothers. And whereas the Maddie J.T. Stepanek Foundation will host Toast to Peace on Peace Day, celebrating Maddie's 35th birthday on July 17th, 2025, from 5 to 8 o'clock at the World of Beer right here in Montgomery Ave in Rockville, Maryland. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Rockville do hereby proclaim July 17th, 2025 as Maddie J.T. Stepanek Peace Day and encourage all members of the community to recognize the many contributions of Maddie J.T. Stepanek by thinking gently, speaking gently, and living gently, the motto by which this courageous young man lived his life. Madam Mayor, I move the proclamation.
Second. Councilmember Jackson seconds. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
All right. And we are lucky to have with us Mama Peace, Dr. Jenny Stepanek, and Maddie's mom. Would you like to come say a few words? And a contingent.
I have some of our volunteers.
Do we have a
supporters from Main Street and UC?
Can I have a handheld mic?
We got it.
Thank you. Everybody come on up. I'm going to come way over here. Come on in. Thank you. I know I've never shown up with a group before, but when Mama Peace says, I don't want to do this alone, I need some of my people to show up, they came. All right, so I have a very brief, less than 3 minutes, okay? I promise, okay. So basically, what is Peace Day about? My son, Maddie, reminds us that peace does not begin with the end of some war. Instead, peace begins within each of us when we're able to say, I'm okay. I'm okay with who and how I am as a person despite my challenges because my basic needs are met. I have some kind of purpose. I know that I matter, and I know that I belong in a community. Peace then grows when we're able to move from that contentment within, even a sense of gratitude, and begin to connect with purpose with others. When we compassionately, non-judgmentally tend to the basic needs of others and support them in recognizing purpose and in that important matter of belonging. Peace is not about agreeing with others. It's about figuring out how to just be with others, moving from our individual heart songs to this collective global mosaic of humanity. I am absolutely grateful that the city, the county, and the state where Maddie and I chose to live all proclaim his July 17th birthday as Peace Day for our community. And I'm super excited that his namesake foundation gets to host the Party with a Purpose every year to celebrate this. It's a party that gives local and this year global neighbors an opportunity to connect, to chat, to creatively learn about Maddie's peace message, and to simply celebrate life. As you heard from Kate, this year's party, the local party, is 5 to 8 this Thursday at the World of Beer in Rockville. I'm here with volunteers and supporters from Main Street and UCR. On Thursday, anybody that shows up, now remember, this is rain, snow, heat, shine, whatever. If it snows, yeah, it's going to melt quickly if it snows, okay? But this is indoor, outdoor. They're closing the street. We're setting up the tents. There's family-friendly fun all evening, entertainment, craft activities, and midway through the celebration, we're going to pause and do something we've never done before. We have a big, giant Zoom screen outside, and we're going to actually connect with neighbors around the world that are having their own Peace Day parties, and we're all going to say peace at the same time because that's what our world needs right now. We're going to have a global clink in Maddie's honor. Peace matters. Peace always matters. But think about the challenges our world is facing today. We need to pause. We need to consider peace. We need to learn about what it means to choose peace, not to worry about what other people are or are not doing, but our personal and our community choices. So I hope to see everybody in here. They hope to see everybody in here this Thursday as we raise a glass, or grateful hands, and connect with purpose for peace. Thank you. Mama Peace, out. Stay up here. We'll take a picture, I think.
I got it. Oh, you got it?
Guys, we're gonna look up there, we're gonna get a picture.
Hang on. We gotta hold up the proclamation. This. All right. Faith, or somebody go down the front. There you go. Make sure we can see that. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Okay, I heard that there's a server, so we'll go ahead and step out. Thank you, and thank you. And I'll see you all Thursday. Your peace posse. Yes, I do have a peace posse. That's good. Thank you, Kate, that was beautiful. Thank you.
There we go. Good evening, good evening. I apologize about the late start. I had a bad hair day with all the rain. And I'm very honored to read tonight's proclamation in proclaiming disabilities, Americans with the American with Disabilities Act. Very serious topic, one that I'm glad that this city is taking very seriously in terms of devoting employee time, thought, and getting input from the public on it. And I'll read it as follows. Whereas individuals with disabilities have suffered mistreatment, discrimination, indignities, and humiliation for decades. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Rockville, Maryland, do hereby proclaim July 26th, 2025 as the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act being placed into law. Madam Mayor, I move the proclamation.
Councilmember Fulton seconds. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye. Awesome. May I have the HRC, the Human Rights Commission chair, co-chairs, come to accept? And y'all want to say a few words? Sure. Yes, awesome. Please. Thank y'all for being here.
We, the Human Rights Commission of the City of Rockville, accept this proclamation honoring the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now more than ever, it is crucial that we formally recognize the rights of individuals with disabilities and the role the ADA plays in our society. In one of the only countries that has not ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, it's especially important that we recognize these issues on a municipal level. The continued perseverance of the disability community in times of adversity, and the continued respect and acceptance of individuals with disabilities in states like Maryland and cities like Rockville shows that there is still hope for a more inclusive and accessible America.
Nationally, nationally renowned and regionally renowned organizations focused on helping individuals with disabilities in a variety of ways have long called Rockville home. Sorry, one second. Organizations such as Sunflower Bakery have provided an outlet for encouraging individuals with disabilities to pursue careers in the culinary arts and hospitality, among other things. Main Street Connect has focused on fostering, more inclusive and diverse disability community in Rockville and the DC area, as well as providing an outlet for more inclusive housing and encouraging more inclusive housing practices for individuals with disabilities. APSI, the Association of People Supporting Employment First, is a nationally renowned organization that is based here in Rockville, focused on encouraging disability employment. Organizations such as these are crucial to the disability community thriving in this region and around the country and around the world, and we appreciate them very much.
In addition to these three important organizations and many others that are based here in Rockville, we would like to acknowledge Mayor Ashton and the City Council for all the work that they've done to make Rockville one of the most inclusive and accessible cities for disabled residents like us in the U.S. Through Rockville's ADA transition plan, the accessibility and inclusivity of the city of Rockville will only continue to grow. Plans for ADA modifications to theaters in the city, revamping and regrading sidewalks and crosswalks, and recreation center modifications are a few of the many proposed plans to make Rockville a more accessible and inclusive place for residents with and without disabilities. On the Rockville Human Rights Commission, we plan to further engage with this work through our newly formed Disability Justice Subcommittee, which was formed earlier this year and welcomes members from outside of the Human Rights Commission to participate. You actually don't even have to live in the city of Rockville to be on one of our subcommittees. To finish us off.
Subcommittee of which I am chair of. Jake Goodman, Commissioner, by the way. As the ADA turns 35 years old, we hope the legacy of the famous disability rights advocates who inspired it, such as Judy Heumann, Ed Roberts, Justin Dart Jr., Senators Tom Harkin and Lowell Wecker, and Representative Tony Coelho, who I actually just saw the other day, will be remembered for years to come. As mentioned earlier, now more than ever, it is critical, highly critical, that we recognize the importance of the rights of individuals with disabilities and the role the Americans with Disabilities Act plays in our society. Even when disability rights are under attack on the federal level, cities like Rockville offer sanctuary to preserving those fundamental rights and act as a beacon of hope for individuals with disabilities. We hope that for the next 35 years to come and beyond, Rockville as a city, Maryland as a state, the United States as a country, and the world as a whole will become and continue to grow in terms of being a more accessible and inclusive place in all aspects of society. Thank you very much.
No, you can give it. So in addition to being incredibly inclusive and accessible, another thing that makes Rockville the greatest city in the world is our recreation and parks. We have 67 parks here in Rockville. And I can tell you that the Recreation and Parks Department and the Recreation and Parks Advisory Board regularly work to continue the tradition of Rockville's recreation and parks being among the best in the entire nation. And just for those of you who don't know, I and a number of my colleagues joined the Recreation and Parks Department and the Recreation and Parks Advisory Board this past weekend for the opening of the new outdoor recreation pool. If you haven't been there, it's incredible. We've doubled the amount of slides. There's an obstacle course. It is new, more lap lanes. It is among the best outdoor pools that I've experienced in the whole nation. If you haven't been there, please do so. And so it's my honor to talk about the July 2025 being the Park and Recreation Month. Whereas park and recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including Rockville, Maryland. And now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of Rockville, Maryland, do hereby proclaim July 2025 as Park and Recreation Month and urge everyone to take full advantage of our beautiful, I'm going to add amazing and incredible, park and recreation facilities and amenities now and throughout the year. Madam Mayor, I move the proclamation.
Thank you. It's been moved, and Dr. Miles seconds. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye. And now I think we have members of the Recreation and Parks Advisory Board to say a few words. Or is it Recreation Parks Foundation? Both. Come on. No problem.
So there's no better place than Rockville to celebrate recreation than in this city with, first of all, first reason for that is this great mayor and council who continue to support it in every way, including spending millions of dollars to create that wonderful swim center that we just heard about. Second reason is a great city staff. Some members are here, they support us, and they just make the programs and facilities terrific. Third, we have terrific citizens who enjoy the parks, celebrate them, use them, and just continue to make it a great city to live in. And fourth, we have the wonderful Recreation Parks Foundation, which was established to help raise funds and promote recreation parks in the city. And this Friday, we're going to have the Rubber Ducky Derby at the new swimming pool, where we're going to load 5,000 rubber duckies into the pool. You can adopt a duck. Brand prize is $1,000. We're going to be pulling out of the pool. It's a blast. Bring your kids. It's a whole lot of fun. Now, the Recreation and Parks realized a few years ago that there are people that have been volunteering for years in the city, and we've decided to celebrate them. And we do that with our Community Service Awards. And we have two such awards to present this evening to Joe Roach and Marty Major. Please come up and join me at the podium. So I'm going to start with Joe. Joe Roach has been a volunteer coach for the Rockville Youth and Track and Field Program for more than 20 years. Joe coaches more than 100 students from kindergarten to 8th grade each spring, and he has committed more than 2,000 volunteer hours during his tenure as a Rockville track coach. His team is so popular, it is booked to capacity each year. It is impressive to watch Joe coach and develop runners of such a broad age range and skill level. Joe puts his heart and soul into coaching, and it pays off with how much the kids value and respect his guidance and leadership. His runners always do exceptionally well, and many continue to pursue track once they move on to high school. Joe also volunteers to coach for the Mid-Atlantic Recreation and Park Sports Alliance end-of-season championship track meet, in which the top runners from the Rockville program compete. Thank you, Joe, for your years of dedicated service to the youth of Rockville, and we're pleased to present this award to you for all the work that you've done over the years.
Make it very short and sweet. Thank you. I've coached in a lot of different recreational or municipalities, and far and away, Rockville has done it better than anyone. And I'm not saying it just because I've told my peers. It's from the top down. So I'm very grateful. I'm flattered. This is very kind. It's a very kind gesture, because there's just as many other volunteers as myself that probably deserve it as much as I do. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Marty Major has been a core volunteer at the Croydon Creek Nature Center since 2021. Marty has volunteered more than 100 hours of graphic design and art service to promote the Nature Center and educate the visitors. She has designed custom coloring sheets for our annual ambassadors that are free to the public. Her designs encourage not only creativity, but contain an educational component for further learning. She has also transformed the Discovery Room at the Croydon Creek Nature Center into an incredible immersive area by painting a mural of the outdoors on the 3 walls. Her murals create the illusion of being outdoors, surrounded by plants and wildlife all visitors would see around Croydon Creek. Her work has truly elevated the beauty and atmosphere of the center, and countless guests have commented on her incredible work. Thank you, Marty, for all of your lasting contributions in sharing these talents with the city of Rockville.
Certainly. I'll be brief. Thank you so much. I have really appreciated that Rockville is a place that has an appreciation of nature, and it fills a hole that a lot of places aren't able to fill. And so I was able to volunteer, but it also gave back to me, allowing me to have a place to share my talents. And so thank you.
They want you to be in the picture with them. Yeah.
Thank you. We do have the most awesome parks and incredible volunteers. I also want to acknowledge the Rec and Parks staff who help make our parks possible. I think it's an incredible part of our public safety. We think public safety is a continuum and a big part of prevention. And also, it improves the quality of life. So as noted, we have 67 parks in Rockville. I encourage you to visit them. Also, it is the most amazing pool center. I know it was previously noted in Washingtonian, and it's even better now. There were 2 things I wanted to just quickly weave. One is the Duck Derby that's happening this Friday. That actually is raising money to support financial assistance programs for people who need help in terms of accessing recreation and parks programs. So that money is going to help people in need and encourage everyone to get involved. The last thing I was going to note is that yesterday we announced kind of a compilation of rec and parks and supporting people with disabilities. We announced scholarships for children with autism who would like to learn how to swim. And so that was announced yesterday in honor of Ace, a young 3-year-old who drowned after eloping. And so we hope that we can help prevent future children from drowning. With that, we have some amazing students in Rockville. In addition to parks, we have incredible kids and adolescents really just shining, and the future is bright. And so we have several student recognitions for students who live within the city or go to Rockville schools. And so if you would just have some patience with us as we acknowledge incredible talent across the city. I'm going to start with the first one is for Miss Maria Webb. Miss Maria Webb, are you here? Come on up. Maria Webb is a 2025 graduating senior at Magruder High School. She's a 4-year MVP of the Magruder swim team, and she had been the team captain for 2 years. Maria is a 2024-2025 high school All-American swimmer in the 100 fly and clocked the 74th fastest time in the country. I think we all can get some swim lessons from Maria Webb. But want to say congratulations on your achievement. Swimming is one of those sports that requires very, very early wake-up times and an incredible commitment, and so we want to honor your commitment at being one of the fastest and commitment to being the best in the region. So here you go. No problem. Now we have some incredible high schools in the city of Rockville. I'll kick off with Richard Montgomery High School Student Achievers. There are a few that are not present, but is Principal Dini here? Oh, come on up. So we have been acknowledging all kinds of talent. We've talked about artistic talent, sports talent, but academic talent as well. And so I don't know if you know how hard it is to be a National Merit Scholar. Actually, Maryland is one of the hardest states, if you look at the stats, to be recognized as a National Merit Scholar, and we have 4 at Richard Montgomery High School. And so if the students are here as we call them up, I want to thank, I don't know what you're doing over there, but great job. Keep doing what you're doing, but I've seen your great work and the incredible supportive environment of Richard Montgomery, and we're so thankful you're in Rockville. So I'm going to call up Sujit Hedge. Yash G. Mania. Zidane Sheng. And Caroline Zhu. I'll note that Sujit is looking at molecular biology, is that right? Yash, finance, Zidane, public health, and Caroline, finance. So we're pretty well taken care of in Rockville with your talents. So let's just hand this to you. Thank you. Jeez, how do I say the last name? Okay, all right. I'm just going to give them all out first, and then we'll take a picture with all the colleagues. Do you want me to hold up the ones for the ones that are... Yes, please. Thank you. And the one is not here. Okay. And then she's not here. I also want to, I'll come back to that one. We'll do the National Merit Scholars, and then we have another one. Excellent. All right, so we have another RM student we want to acknowledge. There is an award that was conveyed upon by the Montgomery County Alliance of Black School Educators Distinguished African American Scholar Award, and this goes to Audrey Opong. Audrey has distinguished herself by being awarded this prestigious honor for her excellent academic achievements. Come on down. You got more coming. We're not done. All right, so Councilmember Fulton will continue reading the Richard Montgomery recognitions.
We're going to keep the accolades for RM rolling for a little bit longer. Next up, and I am the wrong one to read this, we've got some accolades for some incredible work in science. So, the 2025 Regeneron Science Talent Search is one of the nation's most rigorous science and engineering competitions. These scholars were chosen from thousands of applicants across the country. Among those chosen, and come on up if you're in the room, and apologize if I get the name wrong, Naima Aubrey Romero. There you go. The recognition is for research, models, analyzes, and predicts COVID-19 dynamics with interacting subpopulations using physics-informed neural networks. I don't understand what those words mean, but hopefully my name does. We have one more. Eden Han, maybe not in the room, but the award there is for exploring the roles of piezo and YAP in nephrocyte pressure response using the Atlas pressure device. Also don't know those words, but super impressive. So congratulations. I think I have yours. You're welcome. Let me see. You want to hold the other one? There you go. Congrats. Do I got more. And continuing with RM, you really are doing something right over there. We have two students recognized for C-SPAN's 2025 Student Cam Competition Award winners. We have Isabel Woldiab and Chloe Yang. Anyone in the room? Come on up. They worked on a documentary, Farms of the Future, about farm subsidies and their environmental impact. How cool. Also, Lucas Hahn. Come on up, Lucas. Lucas worked with another student at Winston Churchill High School on the documentary Broken by Design, The Flaws of America's Healthcare System. Congratulations, guys. And here you go. Congrats. Congratulations, guys. I think we're done. Actually, we're not. We got more.
Late night sales.
That's fine. Okay. All right, but do we want to come one at a time? Or?
One at a time.
Okay. All right, so continuing our Richard Montgomery Marathon, but we're going to switch over to sports. So the first awardee, or certificate awardee, is Aziza Wamak, state championship at the Maryland State Wrestling. Junior captain Asaya Wamak finished off an incredible season with a wrestling state title at 138 pounds. Wow. I remember those days. Isaiah is a multi-athlete, sport athlete, football, who was also excels academically with a 3.0 GPA. Kudos to Aziza, who was 40-0 in wrestling on the season, and also won his 100th wrestling match. Aziza? Is he here? Okay. All right.
Now, for those of you who don't follow volleyball, the Richard Montgomery volleyball team has been back-to-back champions, and we've noted their state championship here. However, one of the causes and reasons for those championships is an incredible player. Is Emma Djordjevic here? Oh, yeah, there you are. Come on in. Come on up. Now, the Gatorade Player of the Year Award is the top honor in high school sports, celebrating the nation's best high school athletes for their success. This award was given to Emma for the best high school player in the state of Maryland. Now, we literally don't have time to talk about all of the accolades that she has had from a county, state, and even some national levels. However, I think it's important to recognize all that she's done for our community and for Richard Montgomery. So, Emma, congratulations. There you go. Let's get a picture.
Congrats, Emma. Thank you.
Oh. You messed them up. All right. So now we have Ellen Bue, 2025 Maryland State Tournament 4A Tennis Girls Doubles Championship winner. Is Ellen here? Okay. I know. And then Jiajing Zhang, 2025 Maryland State Tournament 4A Tennis Girls Doubles Championship winner. Is Jiajing here? All right.
Good evening. Good to see y'all again. I have the privilege of recognizing the championships. I believe this is the Potomac Valley Athletic. I don't know what the C stands for, but the PVAC League, of which Charles E. Smith Jewish Day School girls basketball team has a number of recognitions. I'm going to start first by recognizing the coaches. Do we have the coaches? Coach Becky Silberman and Coach Danny Bernstein. I apologize if is it just you? Oh, thanks for coming. And are your players here, ma'am? I got 3. Awesome. So I apologize in advance if I mispronounce your names, but I have Brielle Basson, Maya Blumenthal, Jordana Dauber, and Gigi Gordon. Are y'all here this evening? None of those. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Ella Longman, Tali Leffler, and Gila Safra.
Even better. Let me see. We'll just take a picture.
Yeah, we'll take the picture and then
We'll figure it out. All right.
yeah, I'll just say this. Councilman Bashaw, do you want to read the full list? Because I just want to note there's several from the Charles E. Smith Jewish Day School, and I just want to make sure their names are recognized.
Yes,
Councilman
thank
Bashaw.
you, Madam Mayor. So I will continue the acknowledgements. Shalva Lazarus, Aliza Lesser, Liana Lesser, Talia Lofer, Ella Longman, and Amelia Netter.
And just continuing reading the names of the players, we have Gila Safra, Carolyn Saltz, Josie Silverberg, Yarden Wilkenfield, and Nolan Zimmon. Congratulations to you all.
Okay. Let me make sure you guys get all the certificates. Hold on here. Can you help me make sure these are all those?
Take that for Richard Montgomery. That's coach.
There we go. These are yours too.
These are all. Yeah, these are all.
They have a lot of winners.
That's,
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much.
Yep, that's
Thank you,
awesome.
staff, for getting this all together.
Yes, exactly.
All right, thank y'all. Thank y'all.
So now we're moving on to Wooten High School. I just want to honor Wooten High School. I had an incredible leadership team meeting today, I understand. Principal Bostic got everyone together. But just want to note that there's incredible work happening all across our high school. So if you would please come up. I'll start off with the first set from Wooten High School. These students were selected for the National Association for Music Education 2025 All Eastern Honors Ensembles. So I want to recognize Nisa Mustafa. If you will please come up if you're here. Katie Huang. I'll note Nisa soprano treble. Okay. Katie Huang is viola orchestra. Please come up if you're here. Liam Silberhorn, violin orchestra, and Matthew Shoykett, trombone concert band. Congratulations. We also have some folks who are not here, but want to at least acknowledge them. Kent Zhang is a merit scholar, National Merit Scholar in engineering is his path of study in the future. We also have Mason Lee Double Bass Orchestra 2025 All Eastern Honors Ensemble. Incredible work. Gonna give that to you. Tell me if this one is okay. All right.
And we are not done with Wooten yet. We have another batch of student achievers. I have some for sort of scholarship and some for some more athletics. So first up, and again, apologies if I get this wrong, we have Tara Malua Taiwo in the room. No? Well, they received the prestigious Montgomery County Alliance of Black School Educators Distinguished African American Scholar Award. It's fantastic. Then we have some swimming champions. Tyler Copestick, the room. Come on up. 2025 Maryland State Swimming Champion. I keep forgetting to actually give the awards. Here you go. You're welcome. And lastly, I have Anna Nishninatitz. Do I have that right? Also a 2025 Maryland State Swimming Champion. Congratulations, guys. Oh, did I miss you? I should have called you up. That's you. You're welcome. All right. Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations.
And I think the last school we have, is it, nope, not quite the last. Julius West. Is Principal State in here? I feel like I saw him. Come on up. I've got 3 amazing middle schoolers to acknowledge here today. First, Shabani Mishra in the room. Come on up. 3rd prize winner of C-SPAN's annual student documentary competition, Student Cam 2025 and National Junior Honor Society Outstanding Achievement Awards, Spring 2025. Amazing. Congrats. I also have Madison Shea. Come on up. Again, National Junior Honor Society Outstanding Achievement Award. Congratulations. And Yong Lee, advisor, for C-SPAN's 21st Annual Student Documentary Competition, Student Cam. That's the advisor. Congratulations, guys. What am I missing?
All right. All right, so we're up to the last certificate of recognition tonight, and we're going to switch it up a little bit and go from high school to college. And so Jay Leshak is actually a King Farm resident, and I watched her grow up over the years, and her accomplishments are really fantastic. So I'm going to read this certificate of recognition. The mayor and council are honored to recognize the University of Maryland College of Computer, Mathematics, Natural Science 2025 Student Commencement Speaker, Jade Leshak. The mayor and council and residents, come on up. Residents of the city of Rockville, Maryland are happy to recognize the amazing achievements of Jade Leshak, a standout student in the Design Cultures and Creative Honors Program at the University of Maryland College of Computer, Mathematical, and Natural Sciences. Jade has distinguished herself with her capstone project, Black Creative Lives Matter, or Black Creatives Matter, which earned the Capstone Award for Creativity in Pursuit of Anti-Racist Justice. So in the fall of 2025, Jade will begin a PhD program in physics at the University of Southern California, continuing her mission to make quantum science, again, I don't understand that, accessible and inclusive for the next generation. Congratulations, Jade. We wish you much success in the future.
Thank you so much.
You want to say a few words?
I'll always be proud to say that I'm from Rockville. I attended Richard Montgomery High School and then went to the University of Maryland, graduating in May. I'm off to the University of Southern California for a PhD in quantum physics, which I'm very excited about. But I'll never forget my roots coming from Rockville. I've gone on many hikes in the parks here, I've been to the swim centers. I'm excited to check out the new water slides. Those sound great. And I always tell people that Rockville has the best food of anywhere in Maryland. I think that's true. And I really thank our city government, our current council members, for continuing to make Rockville an amazing place to live and grow. So thank you so much for this award tonight. I really appreciate it.
Come on. Give the parents.
Take a picture this way.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone, for helping us to acknowledge and celebrate the incredible work of our student leaders. I think that we have a lot of bright, smart young people in the city. And I just wanted to also thank the parents and the teachers and staff, because it truly takes a village, and we're so proud of our young people. I also wanted to acknowledge that Rockville High School is also doing great things, and we'll be acknowledging them in September. All right, we'll be taking a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll be back and restarting our agenda. Good evening, Rockville. Welcome back. Today is still July 14, 2025, and we're reconvening meeting 18-25. We'll start with agenda review. Ms. Sarah Taylor Farrell.
Madam Mayor and council members, there are no changes to the agenda for this evening.
Thank you. City Manager's report, Mr. Mihalik.
Mayor Ashton, members of City Council, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. First, real quickly, somewhat sobering, we are under a flash flood warning in Rockville. Not sure if you guys are paying attention to your phones on that. So just know that we are monitoring any vulnerable city facilities as we go through this time. Would also encourage folks around town, if they're able to stay home, stay safe, that would be a good thing to do, and just enjoy this amazing City Council meeting, right? That would be good for them. The other thing is I just want to chime in also and talk about the amazing dedication of the outdoor improvements to the Swim and Fitness Center. This community is truly fortunate to have such an amazing space. I just want to acknowledge Tara Stewart and Chris Henry, our director and deputy director. I know Tara's here back there. What a cool facility. That project was very much on time and on budget, and it's amazing. We could see all the appreciation from our residents who attended, so thanks for that. Lastly, we're working on a number of different work sessions, including election code reform, and finally, we're making excellent progress on the update to the zoning ordinance. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate all the work of staff on our parks and everything else you're moving forward in terms of infrastructure for the city. We'll now move on to community forum. All persons shall address the mayor and council and speak in a civil and courteous manner, and members of the audience shall be respectful of others. Each person is allowed 3 minutes, and we ask that you stick to that time. There's a time clock in front of you. Please state your name and address for the record. The mayor and council and city staff allocate time for meeting agendas, providing each time with sufficient based on average duration. So I will call you by name, those who have signed up in advance. However, if you are inspired to speak after those who have signed up, please feel free to raise your hand and we will call you to the podium. We have former Councilman Mark Pichella up first, sent us written comments and also has some comments in person. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I am wearing my Rockville University shirt from 2001, 2002, because it was with that group that I first stepped onto the King Farm farmstead. Bert Hall, the Rec and Parks head, led our tour. I asked Bert, how much would it cost to activate the farmstead? He told me $17 million. Here we are 23 years later and 28 years after the farmstead's acquisition, and there's still no active use. City staff and Design Collective ran a well-executed but traditional outreach campaign that largely replicated previous efforts. But one, the outreach was not conducted in the context of the city's large amount of emerging unused space. Two, the city has a large capital budget program that will cost much money over many years. Three, many of the mentioned uses are already provided by the city in other venues. Four, many of the activities mentioned are already provided by city partners. Five, there are neighborhood community centers in Montrose and Rockcrest that have been captured by citywide uses. These should be returned to their neighborhoods. Six, the area's economy faces challenge. Your resource streams are threatened. Yet we have an approach that says the city will take this on and city staff will run these programs. This can take a long time given constraints. We need to add a non-traditional approach. Here are a few suggestions. Number one, on a Sunday afternoon in September, say from 1 to 4 p.m., host a King Farm Farmstead event where anyone can go into or look into the buildings to see what they're really like. Two, invite various groups or consortiums of groups to pitch their visions for farmstead uses. We know some of these groups, but there might be others. Three, run a large values clarification session at the Fitzgerald Theater and online considering all these realities. We have done this before, it worked well. Specific comments include, one, prioritize the horse barn. It desperately needs rebuilding. Require that this be a free space restructuring with no internal posts. Think of large group movements such as dance, cheer, and stage rehearsals. Two, Rockville already has 2 well-equipped kitchens with dining space at the senior center and the mansion. We don't need another kitchen. Three, your real decisions are about which permanent uses to host at the farmstead. These are the spaces that will be sole use. Other uses can swap in and out. Four, determine if we can establish some partnerships. Five, I don't see a hall as such being built in those barns. Nearby alternatives are available. For example, Bender JCC Auditorium and Gaithersburg Art Barn. What is different now than before is that progress has been made. The dairy barns have been stabilized. There are utilities on the farmstead, and there's a parking lot. This progress may entice partnerships. Let's do this in an economically viable and efficient way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now welcome former Mayor Steve Van Grack.
Good evening, Steve Van Grack, 401 King Farm Boulevard. Always good to be here. I normally do not get to follow a former councilman, but I'm pleased to be here, whatever. One of the most important duties that you all have as a mayor and council is the budget. How do you spend our money? And we've got a $175 million budget, and how you spend that money reflects the priorities of this mayor and council. In the fiscal year 2026 budget, it was exceptional. You did a great job. Safety, an issue that you addressed, one of the highest priorities in city government. You gave $10 million, money that was very well spent, and I can't begin to tell you how great our police department is, although I will tell you one story. On June 14th, my wife and I were on 355 in Rockville for the No Trump Day or the No King Day. There were thousands of people, and people were concerned. but they saw extensive Rockville police vehicles, many Rockville police officers. There was no real concern for their safety, a great reflection of our police department and how they're perceived by our city. Security in Rockville, as you know, is great. I also want to talk about economic development. It is a higher priority than ever. This city, you gave 5 new full-time employees to the planning department to expedite real estate development. Money extremely well spent. The planning services and development services department has been great, but now you're going to give to the developers what they really need, an expedited process. But the real concern, I suggest, comes with housing opportunities. Affordable housing is critical, it's vital, it's needed, but there needs to be the continued rejection of rent control. It will harm economic development. And I tell you, in our times in our country right now, our federal government has decreased their spending. They're going to give less money for needs that our people need. And I fully believe that this city is going to have to raise money, maybe through economic development. Though to be optimistic, I don't think we can do it in the near-term future. But I will tell you that the city's property tax rate has been the same for 30 years. And you never want to hear somebody come up and say you may have to raise taxes. That is my comment to you all. As you go into the future, consider the greatest need to help the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we welcome Akoli Esnem, followed by Chandra McLean. Is Akoli here? Apologize if that's mispronounced. All right. Ms. Salvatore-Farrell, if someone, Ms. Penny, do we have Akoli Esnem here? Okay, thank you. We'll now move over to Chandra McLean. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm a little nervous, so please forgive me. I live on 5410 McGrath Boulevard. So tonight I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Mayor Ashton for stepping in on my behalf last month during a very challenging time in my life. On the afternoon of June 9th, while I was out running errands in Rockville, I was assaulted. In the aftermath, I attempted to work with police to secure camera footage from the scene of the assault so I could present it to the state's attorney and pursue charges. After several weeks passed and still not being able to obtain the footage to present to the state, I found myself feeling extremely overwhelmed and hopeless. Just to provide you some context, I'm a seasoned public relations professional who is not used to finding myself in vulnerable situations. I'm typically on the other end of the spectrum, guiding major companies through a crisis or providing sage advice on how to navigate unexpected emergencies. But last month, I was the one experiencing a major crisis with nowhere to turn. And the person who ended up helping me is not at all who I was expecting. A few days before I was slated to present evidence to the state's attorney and not knowing where else to turn, I decided to reach out to Mayor Ashton for help. I phoned her office and left a voicemail message explaining my dilemma. Within about 40 minutes or less, I received a call from the Rockville police chief asking me how he could assist me in my efforts. Within just a couple of days, I finally had the video footage that I needed in hand, just in time to present to the state's attorney. It was Mayor Ashton's swift and thoughtful action that changed my entire dynamic last month. Because of her, I was connected promptly with Chief West and other key law enforcement officials who were instrumental in helping me access the information that was so vital for my case. To say that Mayor Ashton's assistance made a difference would be an understatement. Her willingness to act on my behalf brought accountability, peace of mind, and a renewed sense of safety, not just for me, but for other Rockville residents who may experience situations similar to mine. Mayor Ashton didn't just respond to a citizen's need, she reflected the power of leadership that is grounded in empathy and action. Through my dilemma, she showed herself strongly as a responsive, compassionate, and decisive leader who is willing to ensure that her constituents' needs are met. She took my concerns seriously and treated me, a perfect stranger, with respect and dignity. She and Chief West have single-handedly restored my faith in our elected officials as well as law enforcement. I stand here this evening eternally grateful to Mayor Ashton, not just to say thank you, but to acknowledge how meaningful it is when our elected leaders take swift, purposeful steps on behalf of the members of their communities. Thank you, Mayor Ashton, for standing up and standing by me during a very difficult time, and for exemplifying what public service truly looks like. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you. Next, we welcome Kate Gold, followed by Isabel, I can't read the last name, but Urbano. All right. Kate Gold, welcome.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Kate Gould. I live at 802 Grand Champion Drive, apartment 401 in Rockville. And I've been a resident for a while, and I'm a board member of King Farm Community Garden, and I'm here to talk about the farmstead. The members of King Farm Community Garden appreciate the care with which this mayor and city council have undertaken the planning for the future of the farmstead. The opportunities for input have been many, and the report is meaningful and impressive. The farmstead buildings have been vacant, as others have said, and many times for too long, and if not maintained, represent a waste of a beautiful resource as well as a cost to the city. Our garden represents 40 Rockville families who have a particular interest in the future of the farmstead. The beautiful farmstead, we value the beautiful farmstead buildings and want them used for a public recreational purpose, as required by the grantor of the land as a condition of the transfer back in 1999. Speaking personally, although I believe most of the gardeners would agree, I would like to see the Recreation and Parks Department's needs weighed heavily in the plans for the farmstead buildings. I believe flexible use of the space rather than fixed uses would be the wisest way to plan. For example, an auditorium is empty much of the time, whereas a meeting room can be used for performances, meetings, and other purposes. Our community garden is an allotment garden, meaning households are assigned plots along with certain obligations to the garden community. We pay into a common fund to cover our common expenses. We enjoy increased food security because of our efforts, and we're aware that food security is a real concern for others in the community. Part of what we do is we donate our excess produce to Manna and other places, and we share. We feel the garden is an integral part of the farmstead and contributes to its historic setting, and of course we want to see that continued in the plans. The farmstead is treasured by Rockville residents. It's beautiful and it holds a connection to the past, and the need for housing means that new development has taken much of the local green space. Studies have shown that green space and recreational opportunities are directly related to mental and physical health. It's in Rockville's best interest to maintain the beautiful historic place so the Rockville residents can use it and enjoy it. And I'm pleased that you are proceeding down this route. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
Oh, hi, my name is Ilse-Bay Urban. I'm at 1108 Grand Champion Drive. I'm directly across from the farmstead, so when I look out the window, that's what I see. I am most interested in uses that connect the history of the farmstead and add to a sense of community for it. So first of all, I would like to see a continuation of the community garden. It fits both of those criteria, and also, if there was a slight expansion, could allow for more educational opportunities separate from the garden plots. Excuse me. I also think daycare, number 2, would be a great use of the area because it would not only provide a much-needed service, but again, it would assist in creating connections among the families who participate, and it would also allow for many educational opportunities to connect the past and the present. Having a designated plot in the garden or bringing in animals as part of a petting zoo, things like this could create that kind of connection. The third is I would really advocate for native plantings as a screen between 355 and the farmstead. Because it would also, one, it would create a sense of the farmstead being its own space separate from 355. That traffic going by is really not very pleasant. Like even when you're at the transfer station across the street, they have plantings and it really creates this feeling of separation. With the native plantings, it would also provide more educational opportunities. You could have demonstration gardens for homeowners and provide also educational opportunities if there was a daycare there. And finally, I'm really much more in favor of smaller repeated events that would add to community feels and also where the parking is more easily accommodated without needing to build extra lots. I'm not really in favor of larger events, especially any that might use amplification, because I think those would be more difficult to accommodate without disrupting the neighborhood. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome Ulysses Santa Maria, followed by Kyle Kosnia.
Hello, good evening. I'm Ulysses Santa Maria, the current president of Rockville Science Center. I want to first express my gratitude for the Science Center being mentioned in many of the discussions regarding the King Farmstead so far. And I'm very happy that we are being sort of included in this sort of sense in these discussions for ourselves and other community-based organizations like us. And hopefully we get the chance to be potential partners. For others in the room, the Rockville Science Center is a nonprofit science education center in Rockville that houses after-school programs, clubs, and a makerspace or tool shop. We serve thousands of people in the area per year through our programs, and we also host the largest STEM event in Montgomery County, Rockville Science Day. Now, back to King Farm, we are, as partners, we tend to be proactive. So, for example, we have been involved and attended each of the public sessions so far for the King Farmstead development, the information sessions, both online and in person. And to be also proactive, we have started to try and develop more collaborative programming with the city's Parks and Rec Department as well. And those discussions are hopefully still ongoing. But for us, we feel that we can be a good benefit for the King Farmstead. Our programs are a variety of them, and many of them are actually complementary. For example, the community gardens, we offer both a seed library and also a tool rental program. And by tool rental, I mean tool loaning program. It's actually free. But we offer tools and we offer seeds that people such as the community garden members can use, as well as other programs that would benefit the area as well. So in conclusion, I want to thank you again for your continued support, and I hope that we can continue to be partners in these discussions and be involved as well as we can be in these sort of developments. So thank you again. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Kyle Kaczynski. I'm a board member of the Rockville Science Center. First, I'd like to thank you for the support you've given RSC over the years, continuing involvement in Rockville Science Day, which is a really special day for a lot of people, and all of the support to STEAM programs that you've given in the city of Rockville overall. Rockville would like to expand our partnership with the city. We're currently working with your Parks and Rec department on collaborative programming that we can use to expand educational programs for the community. And we would like to explore how a makerspace at King Farm could be the core of a vibrant campus and a shining example of effective use of public space. Not only would it serve to function, or not only would it strengthen the fabric of our community, but it would also add value to the other initiatives that are going on at King Farm. Through RSC, the city has access to a group of enthusiastic people with an extensive tool library. And one of the things that I personally love about the Science Center and makerspaces is when I'm there on our open public days, somebody will come in with a problem, something to fix, and within first 10 minutes, you've got like 4 people whose eyes light up wanting to help them. And that's the kind of atmosphere that we want to bring to some place like King Farm. In my time at RFC, I've learned as much about our community as I have any tool or skill, and I think that that's the real value of something like a makerspace and the community around it. It's the kind of inclusive third space that brings people together in meaningful ways, raises the level of education and gets people collaborating who wouldn't have otherwise been collaborating. And I know that's a beautiful thing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. That exhausts the list of those who have signed up in advance. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Mr. Goodman, followed by...
I did sign up.
Ms. Penny? Do we have another list? Okay, all right. Mr. Goodman, and then I see 1, 2, 3. Okay, Mr. Goodman first.
Are you sure? Because I have the email.
Okay, please hold on a second. We will let you speak. And
No problem.
okay, thank you so much. But you will definitely be able to speak. Okay.
If it's all right, I
Defer? Thank you, Mr. Goodman. Welcome. Sorry about that. Welcome.
Thank you for having me today. My name is Nadej Dogbo. I served the city honorably from 2017 to 2024, July of 2024. My last position was in the city manager's office. On June 25th, 2025, I entered the Department of Health and Human Services, not for myself, but as a community advocate and mandatory reporter following up on multiple CPS reports concerning child neglect that were blatantly ignored by the department. I was there to speak truth, and I was there to fight for the community and fight for the children who are currently being neglected by the system. During that visit, I encountered Beth Loftus, a woman I recognized immediately as a specialist for the city, Rockville City Police Department. She failed to properly identify herself or her jurisdiction, and instead of fulfilling her role, she lied about her credentials, gaslighted my concern, and tried to weaponize her license as a mental health professional to undermine my credibility, not because I was unstable, but because I was unafraid to speak the truth. Let the record be clear. Beth Loftus attempted to weaponize the appearance of Montgomery County Police, trying to provoke my arrest, but her actions backfired. Those officers assessed the situation, found no probable cause, and told me I was free to go. That should have been the end of it, but instead, her racial bias, her microaggressions, and her disbelief that I, a young Black woman, could be articulate, educated, and prepared with evidence led her to double down. She questioned my credentials without due diligence, and that assumption will now cost her her career. When I reached out to the Rockville Police Department, I did so in good faith. I requested a meeting with Chief Jason West to sit down and review body camera footage. He ignored me. I gave him until July 4th, still nothing. So I showed up in person July 10th, again, silence. That silence is now an admission of guilt, and I've documented every step. I want the record to reflect that I also did CC the mayor and council and the city clerk office on all those emails, and I did not receive a response. So at the end of the day, I also want to put the city on notice that Beth Loftus, her license is now in question. I have submitted all the evidence and pending investigation by Maryland State Board. But I want to also be clear that at the end of the day, Someone who is committed to serving the population should not be weaponizing people's mental health. She weaponized the death of my son. And at the end of the day, I should be holding my son, who was supposed to be born next week, July 28th. And so she used a moment to tell people that she was not going to fulfill her duty as a mandatory reporter and instead made me out to be crazy. At the end of the day, I am calling for Beth Loftus to be removed and a real mental health specialist to be put in her place. Why? Because she should serve everyone, including people who look like me. And the silence from the council, the silence from the city clerk's office, the silence from Chief of Police Jason West lets me know that you are all being negligent in this.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Just wanted to note that the city manager managed. Thank you. Feel free to take conversation outside. I wanted to say thank you so much for your testimony. The city manager oversees personnel.
I'm sorry, he's not going to help my son.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Mihalik?
No, she is. She is. I work for her. She didn't even bring me. She couldn't even say hello.
Mayor, member of council.
What, Mr. Goodman, Mr. Mihalik would like to say something. Apologies.
Of course, no problem. I yield the floor.
Mayor, member of council, I very rarely will comment after community forum, but when people say disparaging comments about a city staff member, I feel obligated to say something. We are very aware of the complaint. Chief West responded to the complaint the day the complaint was made to us, so Chief West did nothing wrong in this case. The employee that the complaint is talking about is actually a county employee. The county is actually investigating the matter currently in very capable hands. So I just want people to know that we're aware of the issue, that City of Rockville staff responded appropriately, very quickly, and now the county is conducting an investigation. I just want to be on the record of saying all that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And just also want to note the mayor and council do not oversee the personnel that are under the management of the city manager or the county.
That's correct. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Goodman, welcome back.
Before I get into my testimony, just want to note that the county doesn't really allow testimony like this for just any topic, so I could understand that, and as to why, because the county may not address concerns properly, but that's another story for another day. Anyway, thank you, Mayor and Council, for the proclamation for the Americans with Disabilities Act 35th anniversary tonight, and for all that you have done to help enhance the quality of disability rights here in the city of Rockville. Tonight, I do want to address, though, that, while we have made good strides with accessibility and disability, there are a lot of intersectional issues that relate to accessibility and inclusivity of individuals with disabilities that may need improvement, and we may need to, in the future, look forward as we go into the next 35 years. But they should actually be addressed probably sooner. One of these things I was actually just mentioning to you earlier, Madam Mayor, was the idea that we need to really address quality of accessible transit. Now, this is also a county-wide issue in the respect that there are a lot of bus stops throughout the county that lack proper accessibility features. And, there were actually some bus stops in DC that lacked proper accessibility features, but instead of addressing the concerns around the accessibility features, they were removed as part of that Better Bus Network. But, we really shouldn't be removing bus stops if they lack accessibility features. We should be making them more accessible. Also, a while back, I proposed the idea of having in similar vein to what Bethesda has and what Towson has, for example, having a circulator go around various parts of the city as, a way to, improve the downtown, because this microtransit thing called Ride on Flex may not really be the best option. There's a lot of evidence and numerous studies that show that microtransit is not the most effective tool. For example, Arlington, Texas, the city that for a while had zero public transit, and then they had a bus system, but then they replaced it with microtransit, and then now there's a lot of people who are up in arms about that. But anyway, going on to that, then another topic is, housing. And I think, access to housing needs to be a human right. Transit and housing need to be human rights, which I know this may be an unpopular opinion, but it's a popular opinion amongst the people that I've talked to. Rent stabilization is something we really need to push for. I know it may not be happy for developers, but there's a lot of evidence that it actually can help spur development and that, it can actually help things. So just food for thought tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Welcome. Please state your name and whether you live in the city of Rockville.
Hi, my name is Gabriela Piakowski, and I live in 1 Sterling Court in Rockville. So thank you so much to the mayor and city council for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to speak about the King Farm Community Garden. So the community garden space, it's offered me a great sense of community and reprieve, I think, in the middle of Rockville. I'm a new community gardener this past year. And when I was looking for places to live in Rockville, driving around, going and seeing the King Farm building and the community garden space was a major draw for me. I put myself on the wait list right after I secured a place to live, and I was absolutely elated when I was able to get a spot. There are many times I have people help me with the garden and offer me advice. Also, many times community members walk by, talk to me about the garden and how everything is growing. And it's just amazing how many conversations can happen just over tomatoes. And even as a federal employee, the garden has offered me a place of community during a turbulent time. So I think it really offers a sense of beauty and reminds us about, as long as you put seeds in the ground, they grow. And maintaining this farmstead and having this community garden, I think, is in the best interest of the community as a whole. And I appreciate your care and planning in the buildings and the community garden space. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Thank you to everyone who shared their thoughts, ideas, and concerns during Community Forum. We'll now be moving on to Agenda Item 8, Special Presentation. Welcome to the Rockville Sister Cities Corporation. We look forward to your 2025 annual presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, council members, especially for getting us into your agenda. I know it's been busy. I will pretty much be talking about fiscal year 2025, as you mentioned, which ended 2 weeks ago. And this is for Rockville Sister City Corporation. My name is David Hill. I'm the president of that body. And the slides will come up in a minute. What else can I tell you? Let me introduce some other people here. Drew Powell is our president emeritus and a director. Marika Brown is another director. She's also, and she and I, and some, among others, are your appointees to this body. And Adjoa Sulu is a director as well, and she's our leader in terms of interfacing with Corhogo, and you'll hear about that in a little bit. They also had a great delegation, or a great group that were in the Memorial Day Parade from Corhogo. I don't know if you managed to notice this. All right, so the slides are up. Let's go to the next one. Just as a reminder, let the slide catch up with us. We have 2 sister cities currently. One of those is Pinneberg, Germany, for quite a while. That's Bürgermeister Voister on the left, who is relatively new, about the same time that you've been seated, Madam Mayor. And that's the main square in town center. And the picture on the right is Mayor Krasnow and the delegation we sent to Pinneberg for the 40th anniversary. We also have Elon City. That's Mayor Chen, who is also about the same time in office. And this is one of the open markets in their town center. And that's Mayor Newton and some of the delegation that we sent to that city in 2023, just to ground everyone a little bit. Next. A couple of big activities I'm going to run through very quickly that we accomplished in the last year. One is that we sent students from the jazz ensemble at Richard Montgomery High School to Pinneberg for their jazz festival. I've mentioned that before. There were 15 students, 4 chaperones, and 2 other family members that traveled. The city contributed about $2,000 to that effort. It was about 4% of the total costs. And I will mention it's entirely appropriate that participants pay for their travel and that sort of thing. They're the main beneficiary, but there are other related costs. And that was what the city contribution covered. The main costs, though, were paid by participants. The Rockville Sister City Corporation and DAGRP is our sister city organization in Pinneberg, Germany. But that was a great opportunity for those students to get a worldview. Also, the picture on the right, I'll note, is coverage of our students there in the local newspaper. We've lost our local newspaper, but we're always looking for ways to play up our activities, and that kind of coverage is helpful. Next. Another big activity we had this last year was the Bubble Tea Festival, and you've heard about that as well, but it's appropriate to mention in the context. We had about 12,000 participants in attendance. That was on September 21st. The city contributed more dramatically to that, about $7,000, and that was about 35% of the costs. The other costs were borne by the Taiwan Sister City Corporation and RSCC, plus there were some sponsors that covered the cost of that event. And just quickly in the pictures, that's a cultural performance of drummers. There's the whole stage of dignitaries. A number of you were present for that and spoke. Thank you. And Congressman Raskin is down in the bottom right-hand corner, who gave us a very nice congressional proclamation at that event. Next. Concurrent to that, we also hosted the Fuxing Junior High School dancers that performed at Bubble Tea. That was the picture on the left in the original slide. And that was a tremendous visit. It was really our first student exchange with students from our Taiwanese sister city, which is, it's about 6 years old, but most of that time was during COVID, so our exchange opportunities were very limited. We had no city funding for that support based on the idea that these were not citizens of Rockville, which is a condition of the community grant process that we're supporting the people and businesses in Rockville. But families and participants, the Elon City itself, and then our organization supported all the costs for that. They were here for about 10 days. It was a tremendous trip. It was a real delight to interact with those young people. Next. We also held the Lantern Festival. That was in February. Unfortunately, we usually do that at Fitzgerald Theater, and we hope to get back into there in the next year when the theater's open again. But we had to shift. We went out to the Tech Row Community Center, or Cultural Center. We actually filled the place to capacity, and there was no funding support for that for the city. Normally, it would be the cost of using the theater that would be the city support in that event. But of course, since we couldn't do that, we had to carry that ourselves. And we have the lion dance. There's Mayor Ashton waiting to feed the lion. She was very patient with that. And then some other performers there. Next. And then recently over Memorial Day, we hosted musical students from our sister city in Germany. It was a clarinet ensemble. They were here over Memorial Day weekend. They performed at Richard Montgomery High School, had a really good session with those students collaborating on music. Also at Hometown Holidays, they opened the downtown stage, and the city got a free performance out of that, essentially. They laid a wreath and marched in our parade for Memorial Day. There were 6 students and the director. There was no direct city funding, except that we did use Glenview as the place for a chamber concert in the conservatory, which is what the place was made for, really, in the end. And that was a really delightful event, and thank you for the city for providing that facility to us. If you take the cost of that in the grant process, that was about 60% of the trip cost for that facility. A couple other activities I'm going to run through very quickly. We supported the Rocktoberfest, which was an event that actually was founded by the sister city in honor of our German sister city. But we were a little disconcerted that there was no recognition of that at all in this last year. There was no mention in any literature that we had a sister city in Germany. There was no, except for our presence at a table, there was no mention of, Pinneberg, Germany is our sister city. I think that would be appropriate, and let's work on that for future iterations of that event. We also supported the TAGWC, the Taiwan American Association in Greater Washington. They held a Thanksgiving event that we supported as an organization. They had actually an open forum at that session talking about Taiwan and China, and it was just after some significant activities happened, and there's a lot of concern in that community. We've also met with Corhogo Cote d'Ivoire representatives. This is part of the initiative to think about having another sister city, and that's ongoing. We've had a holiday social. We arranged for the mayors to meet, this time with Elon City. Last year you did Pinneberg, Germany as an online session. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for the time that you spent doing that. We supported Rockville International Night. You all made a proclamation for Taiwan American Heritage. And more generally, we correspond with our two sister cities. We support city international contacts. And in this time frame, that included a formal visit from a group from Cameroon. And also, I hosted a Taiwanese film director that was here for the city, gave him a nice tour, talked a lot about history. He was very interested in the history of our town. We've also opened a discussion by way of the Senior Commission on elder exchanges with both of our sister cities, and I hope I'll be able to tell you more about that going forward. Next. A couple things coming up to mention. We'll have our annual summer luncheon sometime this summer. We have an official delegation trip for Plinenberg planned for their 150th anniversary of their German incorporation, and a couple of you are going on that trip. I think there will be a great opportunity to sort of make a new generational contact with our sister city there. We'll have the Bubble Tea Festival this year on September 20th. And German American Day Picnic, which is usually a membership and director event, although others are welcome to that. I think October 6th is our date. We do hope to have a Lantern Festival back at the F. Scott Fitzgerald Theater. That will be coordinated with the East Asian Lunar New Year, which is usually in February. And Memorial Day activities. Our sister city in Germany has asked us about sending an orchestra of 40 high school students this coming year. We are considering that, and we will be talking about it while we're there in Germany. I think that's too much for us to do. It's too big a bite, but we may consider scaling that back a little bit and still having something in that line. And perhaps we can arrange for an official visit for Mayor Chen to come to Rockville. She's never been here, nor has Burgermeister Voister. And we'll have some sort of another Glenview event using that facility as well. Next. Further ahead, I do want to mention in this context that 2027 is our 70th anniversary with Pinneberg, and typically those are a big exchange year, and I'm aiming to get Burgermeister Voister here for that occasion. I appreciate that's a election year, and we will try to do anything that we do with our sister city in the springtime to space ourselves out from the election and not put any demands on you all. We're also in discussion, as I've mentioned, with Corogo, Cote d'Ivoire about a third sister city. We'll do whatever we can for elder activities, and there are a couple more common things with the fire department, student exchanges, cultural exchanges, and maybe some business collaborations, which will open that discussion in Pinneberg for a new cycle of that. A very quick review, because it leads into the next topic. Of course, our first sister city was 1957 at Pinneberg. That was a program operated by the city for most of its early history. In 1982, there was interest in reinvigorating that relationship, and it led to the city founding a task force. And our German sister city formed its sister city corporation at that time. We spun off RSCC as a 503 nonprofit corporation, pretty much so that the organization could raise its own money and act a little more facilely than the constraints of the municipal government at that time. We also retained our status as a city commission when that happened, though, and that was for 30 years. Mayor and council do sign our agreements and other formal communications. We also appoint some board members as influence on the organization. And I want to emphasize this again because there still seems to be confusion at City Hall that the Sister City program is a program of the city. Rockville Sister City is not a club. We still have to report to you all, essentially. And the city benefits quite significantly from the arrangement of our being a nonprofit in terms of the financial burden. This leads to our new administrative process. I've mentioned this, but I'll reiterate a little bit here. During COVID, RSCC was reclassified as a partnership organization. We have some kind of peculiar and non-transparent treatment that we've experienced in that designation. I'll enlarge on that in questions if you would like. But we are an all-volunteer organization operating a city program, as I mentioned on the last slide. Since being reclassified, we've been treated pretty much as an entity entirely outside of the city government, particularly entering the funding grant cycle and denial of what were customary services that the city used to provide. Two very recent examples of that is we did submit some advertising for the Rockville reports, which was turned down to us because we're not part of the city, we were told. We're not a city program. And then just recently, the Department of Housing and Community Development, who's now taking over the community grant cycle, submitted to us a contract, essentially an agreement that we had to sign about insurance that was for independent contractors and didn't apply to a volunteer organization. So I think there's an issue with the continuity of institutional knowledge with the staff that we're working with. The city supports less than 20% of our budget. That varies year to year depending on activities, but it's never reached more than that in my awareness. That's a good deal for the city. City support is getting more limited because of the administrative requirements, and it's very burdensome for volunteers to do that. No one really volunteers for a cultural activity to do paperwork and to do administrative activity, right? They want to get involved in events and interaction, and that's proving to be a drag on the willingness of people to undertake that. It's also an obstacle to expanding to further sister cities, and we're trying to think that through as we go. We heard you express last year an interest in expanding the program, but we need commensurate support to do that. I will, as a partner interest here, mention a couple of the challenges we're facing right now. One of them is that we have not recovered post-COVID from loss of sponsors and members. Very few people during those COVID years were interested in traveling. We had a number of business sponsors that were travel businesses that actually went out of existence, and corporate sponsors really dialed back on us, and that's something that we need to work on is bringing that back. That's also important for affording further sister cities, is that we have the budget to do that. We need to increase volunteer engagement. Our old model of really having central doers, which goes back to our single sister city time, which was the most extensive period, it doesn't scale to broadening the organization. So that's something we have to consider. And we may have a pending leadership crisis coming up as a leadership turnover may or may not happen. So that's possible. One other interesting phenomenon is our general cultural representation is waning to some extent because being German American is not so distinctive as it was 30 or 40 years ago. So we're trying to come up with ways to solve that and turn over a leaf with particularly our German sister city. This is also happening, by the way, in Pinnenberg regarding their American connection. And this is a topic I'll be discussing with my partners when we're there in Germany soon. And the city grant cycle, again, is burdensome for volunteers. A good example of how we have troubles with time intervals is we had to commit to our Lantern Festival about 14 months ahead of time. But the city closed the theater only about 4 months ahead of time. So it's even within the city operations, we're having troubles with that large amount of lead time. We typically operate with our sister cities on about 6 months planning ahead. And of course, when we have up to 18 months in a grant cycle, how do you do that? A good example of that might be what are going to be the costs for our 70th anniversary with Pinnenberg, which would be next spring. I'm sorry, 2 springs from now. But we may have to estimate that this fall. So that's some of the difficulty we're having there. Next slide. We had a pretty good FY25, I'll mention, a very great one. We reconnected with our sister cities post-COVID, have really cemented new relationships with new generations of leadership on both sides. We supported 2 other contacts and discussions with Cote d'Ivoire and Cameroon. Those are both in West Africa, if anyone doesn't know. Our board is fully seated and getting back in stride. We do need to rebuild our hosting. That is, when people come here, having them stay with American hosts. That's another thing that really fell by the side. No one wanted to host strangers in their house during COVID, and the list got itself a little bit short. We managed to do that in our last hosting session, but this has been a challenge, and we have to work on that. And we've also been innovating with our programs and partners. So we hosted a lecture last year at Montgomery College and had a visit to the college with our Cameroonian visitors. We've also collaborated with Ready and the Maryland Women's Business Center and had very good collaboration with Richard Montgomery High School, both primarily through their music department, but also with Principal Deany, who's been very supportive. And I think I'm done. So if I can answer any questions, fire away.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for all that you do at Rockville Sister City. Looking forward to the trip to Pinnenberg. I think that the events you plan help to show inclusivity for our community. The Taiwan Bubble Tea Festival was one of the largest turnouts in Town Center. So we're super excited about the year ahead and really appreciate all your work. I will just note that special presentation, we do send our questions to the city manager. And one of the questions that I know Councilman Van Grack and I have been following up on is to see whether we can get the Rockville reports support for the events that the city does fund. So I know the city manager and his team will be getting back on that.
Okay, thank you.
Greatly appreciate all your help.
Yeah. And I do, just following up on your comment, is yes, Rockville Sister City is an important part of diversity for the city, particularly as we broaden ourselves out if we add another continent among our scope of what we do. And we try very hard to introduce those cultures back here in Rockville, not just event exchanges. Anything else?
This webinar is being transcribed and summarized.
Okay. Being memorialized, right?
Thank you very much.
Okay,
We
thank
appreciate
you.
your time. Thank you. We'll now move on to consent agenda. We have consider adopting ordinance to amending certain sections of Chapter 15 of the Personnel Code. And I know that we also have some minutes to approve, so I'll just note that as well. Okay. All right. Anything else, Ms. Sarah Taylor Farrell? Yeah, I noticed it's not on the quick reference guide. Can you just repeat those three? And I'll pull them up as well.
Consider an adoption of an ordinance amending certain sections of Chapter 15 Personnel of the Code is A. B is adoption of a resolution to authorize the execution of a certain settlement agreement and release, and C is approval of minutes.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any comments? I have one to pull, which is the Personnel Policy Manual, and I know I shared the update with Mr. Mihalik and my colleagues. Can we move forward? Does anyone have anything else that they want to pull? Okay. Can we move forward with a motion to approve the rest? Councilman Van Grack.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda items 9B and 9C.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Do we have a second? Councilmember Jackson seconds. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Okay. All right, it is unanimous. Thank you. So the one small tweak that I have communicated with the city manager about, and he said it was okay with that, was a small, sorry, 1 second here. One small addition to, pulling it up here. There's a section 10 advising the council of all substantive changes. And this is just, we're giving some additional authority to the city manager and also making some minor tweaks about the timing for the Personnel Appeals Board. So there's a range of things that we previously discussed. The one addition that I wanted to add to section 10, advising the council of all substantive changes, including any budgetary impacts to the personnel policy and procedures manual in advance of such changes. So it's just that one clause, including any budgetary impacts, by no later than July 1st of each year, providing the council with an annual report listing of all changes made to the personnel policies and procedures during the previous fiscal year. So this is just, we've gone through a budget process, and if there's any major budget change that the city manager will let us know. And Mr. Mihalik, I know we checked in with that. Just want to confirm you're still okay with that addition.
Yeah, I understand the request, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, Councilman Van Grack.
Just as a follow-up to the city manager, I just want to make sure, I know you said you understand the request. I just want to make sure from your understanding, this does not have a significant change or impact to what we discussed would be responsibilities in the previous session.
It does not.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Fulton.
Thank you. We just had a former mayor in here saying that the budget is the most substantive thing we do as a body. We know that, and there's a principle of regulatory writing that says use one word if it subsumes the rest. Things with a budgetary impact are substantive. We don't need to add another clause. It's redundant. It's repetitive. And in some ways, I think it's confusing and demeaning. Like, we need to empower our career civil servant subject matter experts and hold them accountable. So while it doesn't hurt, and while I'm sure the city manager would not object, I think it's unnecessary, and I would vote no on making this change.
Thank you. I will note that we did make some changes that came forward to us that we had not been initially provided the budgetary impact, and after asking questions, it was provided. This does come after the budget is approved, and so as a mayor and council, I think it's helpful to not only us, but future mayor and councils, just to know if there's any budgetary impact that would have a change to what that we had previously approved prior to the budget going through, which usually gets approved in May. So I think with the city manager being okay with this change, and it is just a quick, small update to say, here are my substantive changes, and this one has budgetary impact. I just would request that the council consider this. Dr. Miles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess the question is to both you and the city manager. If we were to, as a body, vote in favor of this change, would that mean we can't move forward tonight on it, or would it have to come back at a future meeting?
You would not have to come back at a future meeting if you make the amendment tonight.
Thank you. Okay. All right, colleagues, what say you? Councilmember Jackson, anyone else want to say anything or ask questions? No. Okay. All right. Dr. Miles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just having a discussion with myself out loud. I guess truthfully agnostic. I do appreciate both points made. I just want to get it done ultimately. And so on this one, I'm willing to go with the will of the body, but I just want to get it done ASAP.
Me too.
That's all.
Great. Thank you. All right. Anyone want to make the motion? Councilman Van Grack.
I'll make a motion to adopt the ordinance to amend Chapter 15 Personnel of the Rockville City Code with the amendment added that the mayor noted to include advising council of all substantive changes, including budgetary impacts to the personnel policies and procedures manual.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Councilmember Jackson seconds. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All those opposed? Perfect. All right. Thank you very much. It passes. We'll now move on to the public hearing. Agenda item 10, public hearing for TXT 2025-00022, an amendment to the approved project plan for 900 Rockville Pike to extend the project plan's implementation period. Welcome, Kimia Zulfgarian, and we also have participant panelists, Ricky Barker, John Foreman, Sean Ryan, and Nick Demai.
Good evening. This is a public hearing for Project Plan PJT 2025-00022, Danchi Center on the Pike at 900 Rockville Pike. The subject property is, as noted, located at 900 Rockville Pike at the intersection of Rockville Pike and Edmonston Drive as shown on this aerial image. The planning area for the subject property is Area 9 of Rockville and Rockville Pike. The land area is 0.44 acres after right-of-way dedication. The land use designation is office, commercial, and residential mix. And the zoning district is Planned Development Champion Billiards with the equivalent MXCD zoning district. The applicant is proposing to amend approved project plan application PJT 2023-00016 to change the implementation period for the site plan filing, and no other changes are proposed to this application. Staff recommends that following the public hearing, the mayor and council approve the project plan PJT 2025-00022 under the action portion of the agenda. The next steps for this project plan would be the filing of a level 2 site plan, and once that is approved, to proceed with permitting for the proposed site plan. This concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a few people who have signed up in advance. I will read them in order, and please feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to add anything. First, welcome Jody S. Klein, Principal, Miller, Miller & Canby.
Thank you.
I'll be very brief because I know you've got a full agenda this evening. And Mr. Danches wants to explain to you why it's taken him 20 years to get here and everything. Quite simply, you have a letter from the Planning Commission saying, gosh, this thing's been sitting around so long. What's the problem? Is there something just inherently wrong with the property? And Mr. Danches will get into that. But I didn't have an opportunity to remind the Planning Commission that from 2017 to 2023, we were regularly appearing before the council, asking for approval, and then saying, until we know how wide Rockville Pike has got to be, we're not going to approve this plan. And we essentially sat for 6 years without being able to go anywhere. And as soon as in 2023, we knew after dealing with SHA, DOT, and the city, what the width was. We basically shrunk our building to make it fit into what was left in the envelope and filed the application you have in front of you now. 2023. Mr. Danches explained why he had trouble getting it under design and the 6 months immediately after, and that's why we needed some additional time. But I'm sorry that I didn't have a chance to remind the Planning Commission there's a lot of history, including 2 cases to the appellate courts of Maryland on this case. It's just taken a lot of time. But we think that since 2017, and certainly since 2023, we've been pushing as hard as we can. And we just need some more time to be able to get it online. Mr. Danches?
Madam Mayor, Council, I stood before you all quite a few times. I do want you to know that my expertise is property management and construction. I had a rather large construction loan to build the site 9 years ago when I bought the site. But unfortunately, and I really don't want to throw anyone under the bus, I had some issues with access, and we resolved all that. I have every legal right to access into my site through the service drive. But again, unfortunately, people have come to the table saying that I don't have access. He's even gone as far as reaching out to my leasing agency with a letter stating that the plan that you all approved in October, at the end of October, the map is not showing correct access, and you need to tell anyone interested in leasing, purchasing, or entering the property that they're trespassing on private ground. It's been an uphill battle for me. I love the site. It's such a wonderful piece of property on Rockville Pike, and it needs a really beautiful structure. I'm willing to do it. I just can't find a partner yet, and I'm asking you, please, to give me another year to try and find someone to work with me to build the site. And again, I do want to thank you for your patience. And again, I'm asking that you grant me another year to file that site plan to development for 900 Rockville Pike. Thank you.
Thank you. We also had Shelley Vallone from Miller Mill and Canby. Is Shelley also planning to speak? Okay, thank you. I see Jake Goodman signed up as well, but I think that was for community forum. And then do we have a Gabriella Patowski who would like to speak? I think that was also signed up for. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak on this topic? Welcome, former Councilmember Mark Fischella.
So I came on the council in 2009, but I attended almost every mayor and council meeting from December 2005 until I was actually elected in person in this room. And I got to say, this property has been the topic for, as has been said, 20 years. And please give them the time. You know, they deserve it. They've been persistent. They've been in good faith. I'm just sorry that they haven't been able to proceed, but please give them that extra time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay. Just back over to staff. Is there anything else that you would like to add to this public hearing? I know that we have an action item on agenda as well.
Nothing else to add at this time.
Okay. So with that, if my colleagues concur, we will close the public hearing. Is everyone okay with that? Okay. Looking online as well. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming to share your thoughts and ideas and concerns. I will now move on to action item, adoption of a resolution for an amendment to the approved project plan for 900 Rockville Pike to extend the project plan's implementation period. Welcome back. Do you want to say anything else?
Thank you. We don't have an additional presentation prepared for this item, so we can proceed with the consideration of the adoption.
Thank you. Colleagues, does anyone have a question for staff? Okay. So with that, we can entertain a motion. Councilman Van Grack.
Madam Mayor, I move to adopt the project plan application PJT 2025-00022, an amendment to the approved project plan PJT 2023-00016 to modify the implementation period for the associated site plan at 900 Rockville.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Councilmember Fulton seconds. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it is unanimous. Congratulations. Hopefully we'll see a project very soon.
Thank you. Hopefully we won't see you again. We're going to get it done, though. It's my #1 priority in this lifetime to get this done. Thank you again.
We look forward to the ribbon cutting. Colleagues, do you need a break or? Okay, we'll take a quick 5-minute break and then we'll come back. Thank you. Good evening, Rockville. We are reconvening meeting 18-25. It is still July 14, 2025. We're now moving on to the King Farm Farmstead. Agenda item 12, we'll have a work session to discuss the park project update and program concepts review. I'd like to welcome Tara Stewart, and please also let us know who else is speaking and other panelists.
Thank you, Mayor. I have with me our consultant from Design Collective, Mike Stover, who will also be presenting this evening. All right, well, good evening, Mayor and Council members. For the record, my name is Tara Stewart. I'm the Director of Recreation and Parks, and we're excited to present an update following our October 2024 work session for the King Farm Farmstead and potential uses and programs for the buildings and structures located at the park.
Ms. Stewart, can I just do a quick audio check? Maybe put the mic a little bit closer.
Yeah, sure.
So we can record this. Perfect.
Better?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Delay. Here we go. All right, so for tonight's session, we will review the purpose and expected outcomes. We will touch on how this project supports the mayor and council's guiding principles. We'll outline expectations for the mayor and council's feedback on the proposed building uses and programming. We will review the project's timeline in terms of where we started, where we are currently, and where we'll be headed over the next couple of months. We'll revisit and confirm the project's alignment with the mayor and council's direction from our October work session. We'll review our project's community outreach and engagement. We'll also highlight the project's connection to our recreation and park strategic plan. And our consultants from Design Collective will take you through the various building uses and programs that were shared with the community. And we'll close out the session with your questions and work session to confirm your preferences for the building uses and programs. So our purpose and expected outcomes for tonight's session include providing you with an update on the project's outreach and our community engagement, reviewing proposed programs and building usage concepts that were shared with the community. We also hope to capture your feedback and recommendations on the presented programs and building uses. And by the end of the session, confirm your guidance on which usage option should move forward to the next phase, which would be economic analysis and construction cost estimation. So the project directly aligns with the mayor and council's core commitments and focus areas. Specifically, the project addresses economic development. This project will offer enhanced quality of life opportunities for residents through a revitalized park and expanded recreation opportunities, as well as provide employment, and contractor-led service opportunities for the community. Effective and efficient service delivery. We will ensure residents have access to public recreation spaces to meet their overall wellness and leisure needs, including programs and services that benefit their physical, social, emotional, cultural, and environmental needs. Public safety. We have an opportunity to address child care expansion and to provide well-maintained, accessible facilities and open space for our residents to enjoy and to recreate safely. And stewardship of the environment and infrastructure. We'll demonstrate our responsibility for being good stewards of city resources, providing high-quality project management and development to improve city facilities and parkland amenities. So here's a look at the feedback that we will request from the mayor and council later during the work session. As you listen and review the building usage and program options presented this evening, we ask that you think about any additional recommendations for programs or use options. And please also be prepared to let us know which option you would recommend to move forward to the next phase of economic analysis and construction cost estimation. So over the last 8 months, the Department of Recreation and Parks has made great progress to move the project forward, to include engaging the community in a process to identify their desired building uses and programs for the Farmstead Park. We launched the process with an initial work session with you in October, followed by the development of a community engagement plan working closely with our Communications and Community Engagement Department. In January 2025, we launched the Engaged Rockville website as our one-stop shop for all things King Farm Farmstead related, including the history of the site and also the city's work to date to assess and recommend uses for the park. At this same time, CCE also launched their communications and outreach using city resources to inform the community about the project and our engagement process. In March and April, we hosted 5 community visioning sessions to capture initial feedback regarding the desired programs and services that could be offered at the park, followed by 3 community filtering sessions hosted in May and June, where we presented potential building use options and programs based on the feedback that we received from the community during the visioning sessions. So now we're here, July 2025, to present tonight's project update and concept review work session. From here, the mayor and council's preferred building use and programs option will move forward to economic analysis and construction cost estimation. We plan to return in September to present the results of this analysis and to present a draft master plan for mayor and council feedback. Our goal is to wrap up the planning process with hopeful adoption of the King Farm Farmstead Master Plan in October 2025. So during our last work session, the mayor and council shared their thoughts and recommendations on what should be prioritized for the building uses and programs offered at the park. What we heard was the body was in support of developing amenities at King Farm Farmstead Park to help alleviate identified deficiencies of indoor recreation space within the adopted Department of Recreation and Parks strategic plan. And the body was supportive of building and program uses that align with the site's deed and covenant, which state that the site is to be used for a neighborhood park and recreational facility that shall serve the current and future residents of the subject property and the general public. Additionally, we heard from the mayor and council that we should focus on attracting local and regional attention and use. We should minimize natural environment disturbance while maintaining the historical integrity of the site. We should plan for multiple and flexible building and green space uses, create new programs and enhance or expand existing programs, offer recreation and cultural offerings for all ages, backgrounds, abilities, and variety of interests, develop accessible buildings, green space, community site roads and pathways, and to preserve the existing community gardens, connectivity to structures, and outdoor space. So, following our session in October, we worked collaboratively with the Communications and Community Engagement Department to implement the following outreach and engagement. We have our Engage Rockville website. We issued an online and hard copy visioning survey, hosted in-person and virtual visioning sessions and filtering sessions. We also hosted an online filtering survey, provided monthly updates regarding the project and emails reminders about the engagement, and posted flyers and posters throughout the city. So this slide includes just a snapshot of our outreach performance metrics. And one of the areas that we wanted to highlight is the city's engagement with the King Farm Farmstead project page via our Engage Rockville website. So we achieved a 10% engagement rate for the site. And while that may not seem like much, what it actually represents is a significant portion of our visitors who actually move beyond simply browsing to actively contributing and registering for more information. This is actually the third highest engagement the city has seen out of the 7 projects that are using the Engage Rockville platform. The first was Redgate Park, and the second was Town Center Master Plan. So within the approved Recreation and Parks Strategic Plan, it outlines a couple of big moves that directly relate to this project. Redeveloped King Farm Farmstead to balance existing historic amenities with new cultural and recreational offerings, and evaluate viability of multi-generational community facilities focused on new recreational, performing arts, and cultural programming, both of which we believe will be addressed through the program and building usage concepts that you will review this evening. Also included in our strategic plan, the community identified several program priorities, most of which you will see addressed tonight within the proposed programs and building usage concepts. With the King Farm Farmstead project, an opportunity exists for the city to reduce current deficiencies that have been identified for indoor recreation, special use, and cultural spaces. Now I'm going to turn the presentation over to our consultant team, Mike Stover, to review what we've heard and learned from the community over the last several months and learn what their preferred options were. Mike?
Hello, can everybody hear me all right?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay, we're going to start just by introducing everybody to the site. I think most people here are already familiar with the site in general. You can see the dairy barn is pictured here, the house here. Can you guys see the mouse? No, it's
Yes,
not.
we can.
Oh, you
Yes,
can.
thank you.
Okay.
And I will just note, there is some additional development now that's around where the grass is. So just wanted to flag that. There is
Yes.
a new community there now.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll go forward just to give you an insight of an idea of what the inside of the buildings look like as well. I know most people probably have been on the outside, but this is the dairy barn in the upper right-hand corner. This second floor of the dairy barn, and then the first floor of the dairy barn below, and then some of the tenant houses, and then the hay barn on the bottom center, and then again the dairy barn, and that's the courtyard of the dairy barn, which is quite a nice space. Okay. This is a word cloud that kind of gathers the most common responses that we got on both the survey as well as in the in-person vision sessions. And history and open space really pop out as really popular things. So that's something to keep in mind. I think we kind of knew that going in, but it's good to see that everybody reinforced that. Now, the results of the survey and the actual in-person vision center sessions were very similar. We had a little bit of variation, and that the active rec space was it was more popular in the survey results than it was in the vision session, which was interesting. And then the youth and teen programs were also slightly more popular in the survey than they were in the actual vision sessions. So you can see here where the active category was slightly lower than the what was in the survey previously. Okay, now this slide shows, for those who took part in the vision sessions, you'll remember these images that we used. And the way that we wanted to get feedback from the public with these images was to have people identify which was their most highly regarded items. So they got 2 stickers and they marked all theirs. We gathered all that information, and we here you can see how all those items ranked. Now, keep in mind, we have one image that represents a lot of different activities. So we're not necessarily saying that this one picture is identifying exactly what's going to happen, but it's more an idea of kind of gathering the idea or more of a general idea for those uses. From there, what we did is we took those popular images and we grouped them together by this type of space that they would require, keeping in mind that active spaces, which we defined as more physically active or maybe louder type spaces, as distinguished from passive spaces, would maybe need to be separated in some way. So what we do then is when we group all these different space types together is we start to define the volumes of the actual spaces that we would need. So the multi-purpose hall, you can see that tends to be a much larger space. And also in these diagrams, you can see that we not only do these are all the same scale, and so you can kind of tell from proportionally how they fit next to each other, but they're also in scale vertically. So for example, the multi-purpose hall wants to be a taller, grander space than say, maybe the wellness or even like a daycare center doesn't need to have 20-foot clear ceilings, for example. So this is kind of the first step to kind of gather what kind of spaces we want to have based on the feedback that we get from the public. In addition to gathering the information for the buildings, which is what this is focused on, this discussion now, we also want to know what people's thoughts are on the exterior of the building so that we keep that in mind when we're planning the interior of the building as well. So here, while we're not planning right now to do anything on the exterior as part of this process, we still want to keep in mind what people's thoughts are on the exterior. So we've gathered that information here, and you can see that open space was quite popular, as well as these event type spaces were very popular as well. And of course, the community garden is very popular. So. All right, so we're going to get into option one. Option one, we call it our minimum intervention option. And the idea behind this option was to try to keep the dairy barn, because that's the most critical building on site from a pure scale standpoint, to minimize the intervention on the dairy barn. So we have to keep in mind that when you saw those diagrams earlier, some of those spaces want to be in a much taller space. The dairy barn right now, the ground floor is maybe 8 foot clear below the beam. So the dairy barn is not going to necessarily work for those big grand spaces. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't have a grand space in this option. For this option, what we would propose is that the horse barn, because it needs to be rebuilt anyway, it could be rebuilt and have that taller type space in the horse barn. But, and I should also note that the program elements for all 4 options are relatively similar in the sense that we have multi-purpose spaces. We also have a multi-purpose hall, and when I call it a hall, it's a slightly grander, taller space versus a multi-purpose space. Multi-purpose room could be a smaller room, maybe for like a dance practice, rehearsal type spaces, where the hall spaces could be used for events or also for performance spaces as well, just to give an idea. So the arts and technology program, the multi-purpose rooms, the multi-purpose hall, wellness, those are on all the options. The daycare, however, is not necessarily shown in everyone, but I also want everyone to keep in mind that these things are a la carte. We can also switch things around, so it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, if you choose one of these options, we're locked into that exact program right now. All right, so I'll go to the next slide. You can see in this option what we did is we kept, I'm sorry, I keep looking at the other mouse. These are our diagrams, our space diagrams. So we're associating the different types of spaces next to each other. Now you can see here that we have all the lower height spaces located in the dairy barn now, and then we have our taller multi-purpose hall in the horse barn. The diagram is in relationship to the plan up above, if anybody's wondering. Then the tenant houses in this option are being used for maker spaces, and then in this option, the house is more for support space. At the end of the presentation, we'll have all the combinations that we can compare and see them next to each other. Option two. So option two is our next step in an intervention into the dairy barn, and this would include a two-story space in the dairy barn. So we would have to take the second floor of the dairy barn out to create a larger space. Also, in this option, we have associated the kitchen, which would be, this would be a different kind of kitchen type than what exists in Rockville now. This would be, have an opportunity to create more of a teaching type kitchen that the community could come and take classes in versus a commercial type kitchen, which I think Rockville has currently. So, but we tend to associate in all the options the kitchen with the large hall because we think there's a synergy between that, whether it's a dinner theater type thing or a wedding event or different things that there could be, the kitchen makes sense to be used in conjunction with the large hall space. In this option two, we show art studio spaces that could be classrooms or different things, and then we also have our maker space that is in association with that. I think the art space and the maker space make a lot of sense being next to each other. We should also keep in mind that there's many kinds of maker spaces. There can be messier maker spaces like a wood shop or a metal shop versus a more tech-based kind of 3D printer and laser cutters and just printing in general that needs a cleaner type space. So there's more than one maker space. And in this option, we also have a maker space that's in the garage. That thought behind that is that the maker space in the dairy barn would maybe be the cleaner type of maker space, and the one in the garage would be the dirtier type because it's an isolated building. It could also be a little louder. You can have saws and equipment in there versus the other space. And then to make up for taking some of that some of that art space away from the dairy barn, we also have an opportunity maybe to use one of the tenant house that was used for the maker space previously. Now in this option, we show a teen center or a youth center in the house, in the farmhouse. Now, realistically, a youth center or a teen center could also use all these other multi-purpose spaces. So this is just one example. If the council thought that a dedicated space for a youth center made sense versus treating the youth center more as like an event where it uses the multi-purpose space. It's just another idea for you all to consider what you think is a better option. In option three, similar program elements. But in this option, we have the kitchen in the middle of the southern dairy barn, and we divide the southern dairy barn into two event type spaces. So it's just a different, slightly different variation. And then the idea is that the space above these two spaces could look down into it. So it could be held as one kind of big open space, or there could be two events, one happening on one side of the kitchen and one happening on the other side of the kitchen, depending on how it wants to be used. In this option as well, we opened up, you can see in the roof towards the courtyard, we opened up the roof so that we can get a little more space out of the second floor. The second floor is relatively narrow, so getting a corridor and a room on the second floor of the dairy barn would be difficult as it is. So anything that operates on the second floor of the dairy barn more or less wants to act more as like a large continuous space. So by opening this up, we're giving ourselves a little bit more room to operate and get things to work on the second floor of the dairy barn. Okay. And so that third option is also slightly more intervention by also, we're opening up the second floor of the southern dairy barn, as well as opening up the roof a little bit. So that's a little bit more than what the option 2 was. Now, option 4 is the, oh, sorry, I'm still on 3. I'm getting ahead of myself. So in this option, we have another version of the horse barn. And like I said, we'll have all the horse barn options a la carte at the end. In this option, we have it as a wellness center because it could be, with a new structure in it, it could be more of an open plan. Now that open plan could lend itself to other things, and we'll talk about that at the end when we see all the horse barn options a la carte. In this one, we also have the maker space in the garage. I think the garage just makes sense to be the maker space. It's isolated. I think that one to me is most clear cut. I'll be honest with you. The big garage doors to get materials in and out, it just makes sense. And then the tenant houses, I think, could have different opportunities. Like, for example, the tenant house, the smaller tenant house is right next to the dairy barn. It makes a lot of sense to be service for that dairy barn. There could maybe be a small connection between the two, but those things can be explored further in the next steps. Okay. So option 4, in this option, we proposed an addition which would connect both of the dairy barns. And I think that this has a good opportunity because right now the dairy barns are operating independently. That means they both have to have their own egress stairs. They both have to have an elevator to get to the second floor. By adding this addition, there's an opportunity to connect both the floors. And so that simplifies and also connects the circulation. It allows spaces to work together more. Now, this option can work without the addition. We're showing it here as an option. It doesn't necessarily have to be there, but we just it is one other possibility. And in this option, we show daycare in the north wing of the dairy barn, and then we have a multi-purpose space on the south wing. You'll notice that I tend to show the larger spaces in the south wing of the dairy barn, and I do that because it's slightly wider there, so we get a slightly bigger footprint for those spaces. I think if we're going to open up the floor plate, it makes more sense to do it in the south barn as a general rule. So that's why you tend to see that in all the options. All right. Here again, we have another version of the Wellness Center, just with slightly different configuration. And then we have the maker space in the tenant house as well as the garage. And like I said, we'll see the a la carte options. Now, as far as the community feedback from our filtering sessions, option 4 was the most popular, but option 2 wasn't too far behind. And option 3, just a little bit behind option 2. Option 1 was not very popular, and I think that makes sense. You're not really getting the full benefit of the building, I think, when you're working with that small 8-foot height on the dairy barns. I think you're going to have to invest a lot in these buildings no matter what, and to do that and just have 8-foot ceilings, I think is not the best use of the space. Option 4, I think, has a lot of opportunity. We had a lot of people like that. I think the idea of going big or going home, it makes a lot of sense, but it's a cost issue. It is going to be slightly more expensive. We did a quick back of the napkin just to give you a comparison for it, and we think just the addition, and this is really quick number, about 1.2 to 1.4 million, just for the addition. So in option 4, but we still have a lot more to hammer out and a lot more detail to get into in the next, and we'll have the full cost estimate in the next work session. additional program elements. Here you can see this is all the different items a la carte. We can mix and match them as needed. And if you say, if the council says that they really want to see daycare, for example, in one of the options that we don't have daycare, we can certainly incorporate it and then reconfigure these other smaller buildings to make sure that we fit it in there. All right, and I'll let Tara take back over.
All right, so just to do a quick review of where we are and where we're headed. So we have reviewed the building usage options that were presented to the community and what their feedback has been. And once we receive your guidance on which option should move forward, our design collective team will be going into the process of economic analysis to look at both operating cost as well as construction costs for the project. We will be back in September to present a draft master plan, and we'll capture your feedback and then hopefully come back in October with a final plan. So that's where we are with that. So now we'd like to open it up for any questions that you may have.
I just want to say thank you. This has been a tremendous effort by the Rec and Parks team, Design Collective, and all the residents who provided input. I attended many of those sessions, and it was interactive. People were excited and highly engaged. And I think there's a new momentum to just finally getting things done. And I do recognize that the work that was done to put utilities, at least to make this possible, is important to moving anything forward. So I want to acknowledge the team's work on that. But I know this project has been a long time coming, and people are hopeful to see, after many years, a couple of decades, actually seeing movement to from study to action. So I just want to acknowledge that this council intends to take action to get the ball moving, to get these facilities into use. I just have two quick questions, and then I want to open the floor to my colleagues. I have some favorites, but just opening up, does Recreation and Parks have a particular favorite? Because you guys have done the pros plan, and there's an equity thing where you're looking at what is needed, what is missing in the city. And so I wanted to just turn to you as experts to say, what is your preference?
So fortunately, with all of the options, the basic programs are similar no matter which option you are in. And we do believe that, option 4 gives us everything that we would want, right? In terms of being able to offer arts programming, childcare, the multipurpose hall, wellness, performing arts, everything. But we also recognize that that option may come at a more significant cost. And we do believe that we can still accomplish much of that programming and use through option 2, which was the second option that the community preferred. I would recommend that we may possibly make some adjustments with option 2 because there was makerspace identified in the dairy barn and makerspace identified in the garage and larger tenant house, but there's no daycare in that option. So I would recommend that we shift daycare into the dairy barn and focus the makerspaces on the tenant house and the garage in that option. So that way we still get everything that the community asked for and what we need in terms of the programmatic space.
Thank you. And I know that you're going to come back with an economic analysis just to give us some context as we're making decisions. Which of these options would allow for phased approach, right? So that we can, this is going to be expensive, and we have, some budget uncertainties. We also know that these things take time. And we also have Redgate that we're trying to rebuild as well. So just out of curiosity, which would these lend themselves, or maybe all of them, but just want to get that input.
Thank you, Mayor. All of the options lend itself to a phased approach. And part of the feedback that we recall from the last session is that the Mayor and Council really wanted us to consider a phased approach here and possibly prioritizing the buildings that the city has already invested infrastructure improvements in. And that has mainly been the dairy barns and the house.
Okay, and on the cost piece, are there any options that lend themselves more towards, I know we talked about the Rec and Parks needs, but cost recovery as well?
So we are going to share the city's cost recovery model with the consultant team. So as they move into the economic analysis and start looking at operating costs, they'll have a general idea based on the types of programs that are proposed in the options where those normally sit within our cost recovery tiers.
Okay. And then lastly, I want to thank all the community members who are here and those who have participated throughout the process. I also want to acknowledge Troop 1450 for listening in as part of their project. Montgomery College was noted in this as well as in previous iterations of studies. In this one, I think there's potential partnership opportunity. Were you thinking that they would be the potential partner for the teaching kitchen? I know that something has been raised in the past.
So we haven't gotten as far to actually identify partners just yet. I think once we nail down the uses that the mayor and council prefer, then we'll start to get into the details on what potential partners could look like for any of the spaces. I think that there are a number of partners. We've heard from a couple even this evening that are interested in working with us. But once we have an identified guidance on which programs and uses are preferred, that'll help us narrow down that focus.
And the college previously was, in a previous study, there was an astronomical observatory piece. Did that come up at all?
That did not come up.
Okay.
No.
All right, and Montgomery College is aware that we're doing this study?
I am not sure.
Okay, well, just because you don't have the answer today, but that would be good to get back to us.
Okay.
And I will just say I love the uses. I think supporting our youth and teens, looking at event space makers. I really appreciate the daycare. That's something we've talked about. So I'll go further, but I want to just turn over to my colleagues so they may have some broader questions as we think about the options.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fulton, Councilman Jackson, Van Grack, and then Jackson. And I see Dr. Miles as well.
First of all, thanks for the presentation. Really great. I could follow it, which is rare for me. So thank you for that. I understand where we are. I am always drawn to the go big or go home, but I am also a budget hawk. So it puts me in a weird spot. And I know we're not doing an economic analysis today. So 2 questions, big picture. 1, we're not making a decision on what actually we expect to happen. We're making a decision on what we want to understand more about the economic impact of.
Correct.
Okay. And just for a little bit of scale here to help me understand, you said rough estimates are 1.2 to 1.4 on the, go ahead.
That was just the addition.
That's what I'm saying, on just the addition.
Just the addition.
Just the addition.
Because we haven't done the full study yet. So I just wanted to give you a number so you knew when you're making the decision.
I'm not going to hold you to it,
Yeah,
I promise.
yeah,
And I know it's just the addition, but just to put it in context for me and maybe anyone listening.
Yeah.
For example, what was the total cost of the pool renovation that we just completed? Do you happen to know?
$11.7 million.
That helps me. Thank you. Okay, just to put it in the context of all of other parks and rec. Those are probably my only comments for now. I just want to understand where we are. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Van Grack.
Echoing what I said before, fantastic presentation. But aside from complimenting you on the presentation, I want to compliment you on your community outreach. I have heard from so many people in the community that it wasn't just one aspect. It was multiple levels of it. It was kind of engaging the community in all steps of the planning, from the outset before you start doing the drawing, once you had the drawings. And I can tell you that more than almost any other community outreach that the city's done since I've been on the council, I've heard more compliments on how you guys performed it. So the staff and what you guys did together as a team for this outreach truly has been exemplary and should be looked at as how you do it right. I do have a question before I get to some of my comments. And I know that you've talked about this, and you talked about it in the presentation, and I know that in my touring of the sites I noticed as well, you've really got, at least from the 2 main areas, you've got the horse barn and the dairy barn. Those are the 2 primary areas. And there's no question that the dairy barn is significantly has more process along in what's been done. My view, and I could be wrong, I am not an architect, I'm not a builder, the horse barn almost seems like it's on the verge of a condemnation. Like that is an extremely unsafe building. From what I know about building and development, to actually work on that might even be more expensive than building a new because of everything that we're going to have to do. So the question I have is, especially just what Councilmember Fulton said, I mean, we've really got to be very conscious from a budget perspective. Is there any conscious aspect of working on the dairy barn, but potentially even putting for condemnation the horse barn because of the intense costs that would involve in that space, some of which, if we plan right, might even be able to be accomplished in the dairy barn. I didn't know if there was any thought process on that.
So I might jump in on that because it crosses departments, Councilmember Van Grack. So I wouldn't use condemnation necessarily, but I would say it's going to be a big rebuild of the horse barn for sure. The project, the building itself is in such poor condition. If we want to repurpose it with some of the uses that we've identified, we would have to really almost completely rebuild the building. But the thought there is just to make sure that when we rebuild it, that we're very thoughtful of the context of the original facility, how it fits in the farmstead, and to make sure that any uses we put in there in the exterior really are representative of the original farmstead project.
Mr. Mihalik, I just want to add something from knowledge from last term.
Yep.
I think there was something on the order of $6 to $10 million on the horse barn alone. With you have to take down each part, store it, and then rebuild it. So I just wanted to note the dairy barns, as noted, there has been work done there to reinforce it, and it's in much better shape. So when I was talking about phasing, that'd probably be the area that would be able to be activated in the earliest.
Agreed.
And so echoing kind of what the mayor said, I think that goes to the question. I'm not saying whether it's possible. There's no question it can be done. When we're talking about, and we, as Councilmember Fulton said, we've got to be looking at fiscal conservative issues. I mean, we hear it even in the community forum comments. And I guess, and I know I'm going to be colloquial, is the juice worth the squeeze to what we're really trying to do with regard to the horse barn when some of those uses that we can accomplish in the horse barn can be met by the dairy barn?
Understood. So I think once we get to the where we need feedback, you guys can provide us feedback on what are the uses that are most important to you, and we have that list, and then which option is most important to you. Then we update the master plan, then we come back. Then there's a whole nother conversation after the adoption of the master plan, and that's how to phase it and how to fund it. And those
Okay.
are future conversations.
All right. So with that in mind, some of my just general comments is I really, and maybe it's the Goldilocks approach. I really see that there's I know that when I was at the community for feedback, I chose option number 2. I think that has the most universal appeal. I think option 3 is very similar, kind of again in that Goldilocks middle area. What I said before, and I'll say again, one of my most important usage aspects here is with regard to the most amount of community members that we can get usage. A lot of the options where I would love, for example, one of the options, which I hadn't even thought of, having a climbing gym as part of the silos. I love that idea, but I don't know how many community members would be able to benefit from that. So the more community members in the more universal space aspects that we can do, I prefer. And I think option 2 has that in a reasonable context. Similarly, with regard to the horse barn, which I know has the add-ons, having a large multi-purpose space with the horse barn, I think has a more universal approach, because when you're talking about splitting it up into either maker space or daycare, we've got some of that in the dairy barn as is, but having that wide open space in a multi-purpose, if we're going to be utilizing the horse barn, is something that we might be able to get a more universal use from.
Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you, Mayor. So, as you know, Tara, I'm really excited by this discussion tonight and also this project. It's just so everybody knows, and I think many people here know the history. It's been 30 years, approximately, since the developer gave the land to the city with the stipulation, of course, and the covenants, that it be used for parks and recreation. And for various reasons, there's been starts and stops, and nothing has been done. They've made some improvements to the structures, but nothing has been done to use the farmstead. So I'm really excited that this council has a chance to actually weigh in and put our stamp on the farmstead and actually get it up and running. And get some use by the residents of Rockville and the surrounding area. Just like Councilmember Van Grack said, thank you so much for the approach to engagement. I really thought it was thoughtful. I attended almost every session, both the listening sessions and the filtering sessions. And it was really great to have a different experience. I went in expecting to sit down and have like a presentation to me, people talking to me. And it wasn't that at all. It was really a conversation. People can come and go according to their needs. It was well done. And actually, I was talking to somebody about it, and they said, "Oh, well, you're describing a charrette." And I was like, "What?" And so I actually learned that that was a charrette. I wasn't really sure when we were talking about it earlier for the budgeting purposes what a charrette was. Now I know. But I think, as Councilman Van Grack kind of stole my thunder, but it was a great engagement, both in terms of the listening sessions, the filtering sessions, but also the website and the survey. I think you guys did a really good job, and I really think it's a model that we can follow for the city for other purposes. Just some things that I thought about as we were talking about the farmstead. I mean, I know we're going to get into the various options down the road. You're just asking us for our preferences right now on the various approaches that you've outlined. And this is something that I talked with the city manager about when we met earlier. I don't know that I really can be like option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4, because I see various buildings as having really different functions and being really different in their terms of usefulness and the timeliness. So, we were having a discussion about this, and for me, I might prioritize the dairy barns differently than the farmstead house, differently than the horse barn because of their various costs and the various timelines that are going to be taken to actually do functional activities in that the buildings. That said, I really like the options that are connected with food or with farms. I think that really goes well with the farmstead concept in general. The food trucks, the kitchens, et cetera. The one thing that I didn't see in the options, and I want to ask you about, was somebody brought it up to me. The museum or some sort of history that we could have school children go to, or field trips or whatever, that really describes the process of farming. I think that's a really historical aspect of the site that we could preserve and kind of highlight, and it's something that's really unique to that facility in Rockville. So I just wanted to ask you about that and whether or not you'd had discussions on that and whether it was popular or not.
So in terms of just acknowledging the history of the site and the significance of it, we did have some discussion about how we can tell the story through interpretive signage throughout the site for the buildings. And I think because there are some general uses or flexible uses prescribed for some of the spaces, like there may be wall space that we can use that could be used for exhibition and interpretive information to educate the community about what the farmstead was, about agricultural and farming in general. So I think that there are some opportunities.
So in general, I know I talked about the different buildings and having different times and costs, but you ask about which option, and I'm similar to. I keep saying it to Councilmember Van Grack, in that I like option 4, but it's really a reach. And option 2 is good, but I think option 3 in general building by building, but just in general makes the most sense to me. The one thing, though, that I didn't want to have forgotten, because I looked at the plans, and we're really focused on activating the actual structures of this farmstead. And I don't want to forget that we also have all this green space, whether it's a garden, that which can be expanded, or we have other functions, or the actual green space out front by 355 and Wrenchmont. I think there's a lot of things we can do with that space that aren't that costly, but that can engage the community and really be useful for drawing people there. So I just don't want to let that go by the wayside as we're discussing the farmstead and the buildings. There also is a green space that is there as well that we can use. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Dr. Miles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just echoing the thanks of my colleagues to the community, to staff, to my colleagues for their excellent remarks. I don't have much to add to what has been said. I do like the notions of thinking back to the pros plan and how we can make sure that whatever we are doing keeps in mind some of the things we want to do in terms of outreach, being mindful about our budgets, and just the process in general was great, and look forward to the discussion. I do like the notion, generally speaking, if we're going to invest big money, just get it right the first time, but am mindful, as was mentioned before, about to what extent can things be staged so that we can see where we're at, re-engaged, or perhaps make a reset based on the current or future financial headwinds. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Shaw.
I also want to echo my colleagues in thanking the staff for the very creative and innovative community engagement. I think we had a really wide reach and feedback to help us shape this project. So the things that really resonate with me is the childcare, the community kitchen, and the community gardens. I actually like all of the options, so I really look forward to seeing the fiscal impact and the cost information to just make a better decision. But I also just wanted to mention, I think that it's great that we had our work session on childcare, just to share the need and inform this decision.
Dr. Miles. Thank you, Councilman Shaw.
I apologize. I'd be remiss. The one note I did make in terms of specific uses that I would advocate for, I was reminded by our colleague, Councilmember Shaw, would be daycare. I do recognize among the community it wasn't the highest. I think, I'd be remiss not to advocate for the patients of which I care. I mean, not to advocate for childcare. So I certainly would support that. That's all.
Thank you. And I noted earlier as well that we had a very detailed childcare session, and I think many of us were interested in expanding childcare. We have one more in the southern part of Rockville. It would be really nice to have something in the northern part. I do like this flexible use. I hope that when you come back to us with the economic impact, that we can look at the different variations on considering the horse barn, because I think that's probably the most expensive thing to consider and has had the least work. I think the community garden should not be a question mark. We're going to have a community garden. We're going to maintain the community garden. And so I just wanted to note that, to me, that's not a question. It's here to stay, and I would love to have community gardens all across the entire city. So I just wanted to note that. I started out talking about phasing and budgeting and thinking about our big projects, but interestingly, the additional amount that you mentioned, as my colleague Councilman Fulton mentioned as well, the scale of the addition is not that much. I don't know if something you're going to come up and say now is 10 million. That's a different story. But for 1.4 million and being able to connect the dairy barns and have greater usage and utility, it doesn't seem like to me, it seems like a no-brainer. But I would love to hear, as you delve more into not just the back of the napkin math, but real math, if that's a true opportunity. Because I think that gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of utilizing this space and getting more out of it for more residents.
Yeah, I would agree. And if you do choose to go with option 4, I discussed it with our estimator, and he's okay with doing that as an ad alternate. So basically, you would get kind of the price for option 2, and then the addition would be, you add that on and you would get option 4, basically.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Councilmember Fulton.
I'm in favor of that. What you just said, you just made it really clear for me. If you want feedback, my feedback is that.
I thought
Thanks.
you would like that, yeah.
Awesome. I had a couple comments on the options. I too had written down 2 to 4, and I'm leaning towards let's see the math on 4. But there's some things that kind of stuck out to me with all the options. I love the childcare, as I mentioned to start. We don't necessarily have a dedicated youth teen center, so I like that. When I thought about the childcare center, there's not really, when you do childcare, I've visited many, I'm a mom as well, it's not really flexible space. It's kind of like the teachers need their stuff where they need their stuff. So some of the options that where it had like this or that with childcare, I was confused about that. So I was wondering, isn't that a great use for the farmhouse? But that to me seemed to be a nice space where the teen space could have more flexibility as well. So some of the options I liked, but I was like, oh, you put the daycare or the childcare into something that really isn't flex space. So I just want to get your opinion on that.
Well, you bring up a good point, Mayor Ashton. So we are seeing it with our existing child care center, right, at Montrose. So once a licensed child care program is set up in a space, it's really challenging to keep that space flexible as it's set up to accommodate our licensing requirements and to provide that child care service. So, as we look and review the feedback, we'll take that into consideration and figure out if there's another way to not minimize the flexibility of the space.
Yeah, and I also think from a safety perspective, the farmhouse is a little bit more to the side. It's their own dedicated space. Just as a parent, I'm thinking about safety. From a city perspective, I'm thinking about flexibility. So to me, the farmhouse seemed like a better use for that, but you all are experts, but I didn't see that as really standing out in options 2, 3, or 4, putting it in that location. So that is one piece of feedback I did want to share. The other, thinking about flexibility, my colleagues have mentioned, we want to get best use out of this. Some of the options took part of the dairy bond and it created 2 event spaces, which I love the idea of being able to be flexible and move, okay, I need 1 event space, now I need a larger space. But some of them had like a dissecting kitchen or something in the middle. And I was wondering, and I know I mentioned this during some of the filtering sessions, is could we put the kitchen more at the edge? And then, similar to how hotel spaces or other event spaces work, that you could have a dividing wall to say, this event the city is planning or that we're renting out the space for needs a smaller space, and sometimes it needs a bigger space, that we have the flexibility to make it a larger space if needed, versus if we dissect it with a kitchen, we really don't have the option to make a bigger space.
Yeah, I think option 4, we've already started thinking about like how we could improve that in option 4. So yeah, that's duly noted.
Okay, excellent. I love some of the comments we've heard about native planting in the space. I love the community kitchen idea, the teaching opportunities. I will tell you, I love to cook. I love to garden. I've taken some cooking classes in this area and they're always booked. So there does seem to be a demand. I think that we should do a little bit research and see, is that true or is that just a qualitative finding? But I do think that's something that might be of interest in this area because I don't think there's a lot or enough of that. I do want to also acknowledge the Rockville Rotary does the American Heroes flag event there. I think it's so special. I would love to be able to, my colleagues' comment, think about the green space and the use of that space to allow events like that to happen. So I just wanted to note, I don't necessarily want anything we're planning to remove them from being able to do that. And then maybe there are other ways that we can use that green space as well to have events or special ceremonies. I appreciate the makerspace could incorporate even the Science Center as well. So I just wanted to note that. And the other two groups that have come forward to us in the past are the ballet and the bike hub. And so I was trying to see are there any of these options that would be better for those two groups to consider them as well.
So I'll start with the Civic Ballet. So that is a Rec and Parks program, and they're based out of Rockcrest currently. Right now, we have looked at it as we are proposing several multi-purpose spaces, and especially in the wellness center, that will likely have a sprung floor. Now there is a Marley vinyl sort of floor that is used for like your ballet classes, which can be rolled out, but the one at Rockcrest is down permanently. So we were hoping to possibly host a few classes for the Civic Ballet at King Farm without completely removing them from Rockcrest.
Yeah, and I think they also have a tremendous need for storage space as well. I don't know where that fits, but they don't have enough space for props. So I've heard that throughout the years. That's something we need to figure out. Perhaps one of the tenant houses, or can be considered for that.
Yeah. And then to your second question, I believe you asked about Bike Hub.
Yes.
Yes, so we recognize we work with Bike Hub. They are a wonderful organization. And I think once we have a general idea of the preferred uses, then we can look at whether there is potential to have partnership with them in some way. But we try to sort of steer clear of designing space for a specific group, but just designing space so that it could be flexible and accommodate as much of the community as possible.
Okay. Thank you. And then I just want to acknowledge the community really liked the performing arts. I've heard that time and time again. I think all of us have heard it. So, and we know that space is a premium at the F. Scott Fitzgerald Theater, and we just can't accommodate all the space that we need. So I appreciate all the options can accommodate the performing arts. From what I can tell, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I think those are my comments. I don't know if inadvertently we created an option 5, but but with an
That's
option
what we're
to
here
scale
for.
phases.
That option 5 is what we want to hear today. So yeah.
Councilman Van Graack.
I was just going to say two things. Number one, echoing what some of my colleagues have said, the idea of having some of the minimal Goldilocks areas, 2 or 3, while being able to connect the buildings could potentially, and again, I'm going to go back, if there's potentially another building that might be too cost prohibitive to look at, the more things we can do with an existing building that's going to be viable from a budget perspective would be a great idea. And I also want to go back, because I know that we're focusing, and I know some of my colleagues have said this too, focusing a lot of the indoor areas. This outdoor area has a lot of potential. And I think we need to look at, first of all, we got to keep the community gardens. It's critical. I know in my area of Rockshire, it's critical. I know numerous people, including at least one on the dais right here, is utilizing the community gardens, which is critical. But also, we've got a lot of green space areas. And whether it's either playground or park space, I know we have had areas in Rockville where we have kind of like walking or running paths to be able to use, and maybe there could be an incorporation of the museum idea with a walking path that gives charts of what used to be there, and charts and looking as you're walking through the path, look at this area, this is what farming was done. Look at this area, and maybe outline, you have a planned community, but look at what it used to be. And so you could be able to utilize that green space both for the recreation and parks, what we've got now, versus what we can utilize it for, again, from a universal use perspective.
Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you, Mayor. So first of all, I just want to reiterate, I really appreciate your realistic approach. We've heard in the past kind of pie in the sky ideas, the blue sky, which is fine, but it doesn't lend itself to actually quick action and getting stuff up and running, which is going to be useful for Rockville's residents and in general in the city. I was thinking through it and, listening to the conversation about the costs and everything else. And option 4 is an option that I want to consider. And it's not so much the cost as the time. So I guess it really is, my question is, how much time would it involve to do what you propose in option 4 with the dairy barn versus option 3 or 2, just using the structure as is rather than with the addition? Or do you know yet?
No, I can't say offhand that I know. It all has to do with the phasing plan, basically, and what you want to do when. There's no reason why the addition would necessarily add any more time. If you wanted to do it all at once, you could do it all at once. But if you wanted to divide the work up, the one complication would be that when you do that addition, you're going to be connecting both wings. So you're not, say if you wanted to phase it where you did one wing, you could come back and do the other wing later. But if you put that addition in, you're not going to have that option necessarily. So that it does complicate it slightly in that sense. Yeah.
All right. No, thank you. And then my final comment, I really appreciate what the mayor said about the garden. In past, it's in a question. In the past debates that we've had on the city council before I was on it. But it's nice that people are really recognizing the value of the green space and the gardens. And I hope that, as the mayor said, that not only will we expand the garden, the community garden at the farmstead, but also around Rockville, because I think there's a real value to expanding the garden for people that want a garden and want to have food that they grow themselves.
Councilmember Fulton.
Just for completeness of feedback real fast. Yes, I support the community garden. I've sampled Council Member Jackson's peppers from there and they're good. We need to keep having them. I also really support the daycare, and I agree with the mayor that a separate space like the farmhouse feels right to me about that. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm wondering also the two buildings that seem the prime for activating first, so the dairy barn and the farmhouse. They are structurally sound. I was going to question for the horse barn, are you going to get back the economic analysis for us? Have we at least done the work to document it in case something happens so that we can recreate or structure something in its likeness? I know that in the past there was a building in Rockville that went up and they couldn't reconstruct it because it didn't have the proper analysis. So can you just confirm, do we have that analysis done?
I can't confirm that. I don't know if anybody else, can we confirm that or not? We do have that.
Okay, great, great.
Thank you, Chris.
And then in addition to the gardens not being in question, I think when Rockville does things, history and art are a given. So that's part of our culture here. And I know that we have it built in whenever we touch a building, we also think about art. So I wanted to note that I think that's any of the concepts that we're considering, creating some awareness about what that space was, and then folding in art and education. So I wanted to at least acknowledge that as well. So did we give you enough feedback? And Mr. Mihalik, go ahead.
So here's what I thought I heard. I'm going to make sure I'm accurate on this. Regarding the first question about additional recommendations for programs and building uses, I thought I heard general support for everything on the screen. But then in addition to that, the idea of doing more interpretation and acknowledgement of the history of the property, take full advantage of the open spaces, try to provide as much flexible spaces on the property as possible, and don't let the big spaces get broken up by some interim uses such as kitchen facilities, and use as many native plantings as possible. I think I heard all of that.
Yes, but also say the garden isn't a question, it's staying.
Yeah, I heard that multiple times. That was crystal clear. Yeah. And then I got a little bit of mixed messages on which option you prefer, but then I'm going to make a recommendation for you if it's okay. I heard support for 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then I heard warming support for number 4. Since number 4 is the most highly invasive, if you will, or has the most intervention and will clearly be the most expensive, if it's okay, I would ask that we have the consultant do the economic analysis and construction cost estimate for option number 4, realizing that you guys are very sensitive to how we phase it and fund it over the years. So that's what I'd recommend. We don't want to do an analysis and construction cost estimate for all 4 because that would take a very long time. So I would recommend doing number 4 and we'll bring that back to you.
That is extremely helpful. And I was also just wondering, I don't know if we consulted with Montgomery College. They were at least a partner before. I just want to make sure that there's some follow-up with them as well.
We will reach out to them.
Okay, and I also just want to say thank you again for the community outreach, for this excellent presentation. I also appreciate that you went to different parts of Rockville. And I think that is incredible because we want to bring activity to where people are. And so I just want to say thank you for that. All right, excellent work, team. I know we gave you more homework, apologies, but hopefully it gave you some clarity as well. Okay. We are now moving on to mock agenda, item number 13. Any comments or questions about the mock agenda? I know we discussed this morning. Thank you all. Now we'll move on to old new business. And I just wanted to note that we are ahead of schedule, colleagues. Thank you. So just want to see any comments under old new business. Councilmember Shaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With the upcoming rent stabilization conversation coming up next week, I just wanted to be clear with the public, many who have asked for this conversation to be back on the agenda. I just wanted to be clear with the public about some of the changes from what was decided during the June 16th meeting and what we have now. And at our June 16th meeting, Dr. Miles and I proposed a new rent stabilization conversation focused on developing a policy with really just sharing the framework and some headers. And what was agreed upon in that meeting was that we would meet with the city manager to flesh out the details of each of those headers. But unfortunately, that meeting did not happen, so we did not have the opportunity to get the details. And instead, some of my colleagues who may still be opposed to rent stabilization, they went ahead and directed staff to not provide updated data analysis. And so what would have been a very rich policy guiding discussion does not have the updated data that this conversation really needs. And when I asked for a justification, I do thank Councilmember Van Grack for getting back to me and sharing the reasoning that the mayor and Councilmember Van Grack and other members didn't want to divert staff, housing staff, from working to assist renters to helping us prepare with a policy. And I did want to mention that a lot of their work is actually working with renters dealing with rent hikes that would be addressed with this policy. And I know that this is the number one issue for renters is their rent. And so I did want to provide that to folks and understanding the difference between what we decided on June 16th and what is coming for a work session that doesn't have the data, updated data or staff analysis that I do think this discussion really does need. One example would be, and I know that we are relying on the July 8th information, and staff did a wonderful job in providing an analysis with the July 8th information. But rental data it goes up every year. And so information like some of the most recent rent hikes, information like the average rent hikes, we don't have because we are focused on the July 8th information. And I want to make sure that with every work session, I would want this with every work session, that we have updated data so that we can do the best job that we can in making policies and making decisions.
Thank you. Councilman Van Grack.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to respond to what Councilmember Shaw said there. And I want to be clear because I know she said we decided, but there was no we decided by the mayor and council. There was a to quote Councilmember Shaw, an introduction of her plan, and then later clarification that she would like a discussion regarding her plan, which includes a 3% rent stabilization bill. It was seconded by Councilmember Miles, and that is why it's on the upcoming agenda. But there was no decision that we decided. It was simply a discussion of placing this on the agenda. And with regard to rent control or rent stabilization, that is simply one policy proposal. This mayor and council are working on dozens and dozens of affordable housing proposals and proposals, as we discussed at the last mayor and council meeting, to help renters. And quite frankly, when we had the last discussion on July 8th, 2024, staff did a fantastic job. And I want to clarify, staff gave us a presentation on the agenda booklet, which was 28 pages long, included 65 citations, 13 data-focused figures, and references to hundreds of pages of studies regarding hard caps on rental renewal rates. Staff did a fantastic job, and this body specifically made a decision based on that information. Now, if Councilmember Miles and Councilmember Shaw would like to bring back a discussion, which is Councilmember Shaw's description of what you wanted, that's fantastic. I mean, we're going to have that discussion at the next mayor and council. But to have staff go through another significant resource in addition to what staff provided to us is an, I think, unnecessary use of staff time and resources when this mayor and council is working on fantastic proposals to help renters. And I also want to be clear, because I know there's been a discussion of whether this mayor and council has discussed rent control and rent stabilization. There was initially a discussion on February 26th, 2024. There was also discussions during our retreats on March 16th, 2024, May 13th, 2024, and then the discussion, which is referenced by Councilmember Shaw and myself, with significant data on July 8th, 2024, in addition to which, leading up to the July 8th, 2024 meeting, staff met with members of the mayor and council for specific briefings on that significant data throughout the months of June and July leading up to that meeting so we can be fully informed on hard caps on rental renewal rates. So I appreciate the fact that we're having another discussion of it next meeting, and I appreciate what staff did, which was fantastic for our discussion on July 8th, 2024. And you know, we're having a discussion, but I don't think we need to divert staff away from the work they're doing to help our housing, affordable housing, and work to help renters that we're working forward in the city.
Councilmember Shaw, then Dr. Miles.
Yeah, so I did just want to clarify when I say the decision, I'm talking about the decision of the process for Dr. Miles and I to flesh out the details because, and just to clarify, I said rent caps, banning junk fees, a petition, and establishing an enforcement. I stated 3% as a starting point, not certainly an ending point, but as a starting point to have a good faith conversation because previously, what staff provided, and this was their labeling of it, was an overview. We did not look at specific caps and the impact. I will also say it took Dr. Miles and I several conversations the dates that you laid out to actually put it on the agenda, despite the rules. And I will also say, and just to clarify, to go through the rent caps, junk fees, exemptions, petitions, and enforcement. So the rent caps, as I stated before, we did not have a particular number. So looking at the impact of that number is incredibly important. That's not in the July 8th report. Junk fees, although fees are in the July 8th report. The junk fees are not. They actually were passed on July 24th, 2024. So the example of the junk fees that Montgomery County is using, which was what I wanted to specify, did not exist during July 8th. The exemptions which would also be reliant on looking at the 2025 pipeline of development, also did not exist during July 8th. The petition process also did not exist during July 8th. And now, since our July 8th meeting, not only has there been Montgomery County's law has been implemented. It was enacted in 2023, implemented in 2024 after our meeting of July 8th. Also, Prince George's County has also enacted the law after our July 8th meeting. So now not only is there information about rent stabilization, there's also data from other jurisdictions. And that's the type of information that I was looking for that would have been fleshed out in a conversation that we agreed to during the June 16th meeting, and also enforcement as well. That information didn't exist during our July 8th meeting. It does exist now and is accessible.
Thank you. Dr. Miles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank my colleagues for some pretty impressive closing arguments. I'm not going to burnish off any legal skills, because I have none. But I think what I understand, I think I've been very clear on where I stand on having this discussion. I think it's worth having. I do thank my colleagues for at least entertaining us discussing it at a future date. I also indicated in separate communication with the city manager, I would have preferred a date a little further in the future to get a little more information, as was articulated. Again, I'm not a lawyer by training, but I do know in the context of some legal matters that you do have to update your information based on things that have occurred since the previous discussion. And I think it would be a good course of action to have given us the time to do that. I also can count. I do recognize that so far I've been in the minority on this one, and that's okay. I do hope others will join with us in being open to having discussion at a future point. But again, I am thankful for where we're at. I do hope we can get further along on this issue. And I do, at a larger point, recognize this is just one part, an important part, particularly with regard to being able to address a challenge that many people who rent face in terms of dealing with issues in the present day, while we work on the 40-some-odd other interventions that the city and my colleagues are working on to address the supply side of it. I'll end there. That's all I got. That's not a great closing argument, but I tried.
Thank you. Appreciate all the comments. I'll just note we're getting in a little bit into what we're going to discuss next week. I know Councilwoman Grack, you raised your hand for one more comment or question, and then I just want to help us close as well.
I would just like to note that our rules provide that 2 members of the body can add something to the agenda, which is in the rules, and I welcome it. But the rules don't necessarily provide that 2 council members can direct staff to do things. If Councilmember Jackson and I come up with an idea to rezone the entire city in an entirely new process, we can have that on the agenda, but that shouldn't take away the staff just because we have an idea and divert the staff to doing loads of additional work just because 2 of us have an idea.
Thank you. I want to thank my colleagues for all of their comments. I just wanted to also note that I do believe that staff did a fantastic job on the July 8th work session. I know that we had initially thought about having it as part of the housing work session broadly so that it was included, but it was requested to have a dedicated session, which we did. At that time, it's my understanding that staff said they had to divert resources, and it delayed some of our other housing projects, namely the tenant code update, the Maui Price dwelling unit update. And so those things are sorely needed to make sure that we are protecting renters, making sure we're looking at affordable housing. So there are about 40 housing action items that we need to move forward on. And I understand the needs of staff also to help think about how do we prioritize. I'll note that when they did the July 8th study, they had multiple case studies from Montgomery County, Tacoma Park, DC, Los Angeles, Prince George's County, St. Paul, Newark, and Portland, Maine. And so I really appreciate how thorough staff were in looking at various aspects of rent control, rent stabilization, and other parts of affordable housing. So I just wanted to note appreciation for staff. It's also my understanding that Mr. Mihalik, following June 16th, did reach out to the members who raised the idea, and I appreciate that you did that so that you could at least get clarity on the key points that you're going to put on the screen for next session's meeting. Mr. Mihalik, is there anything else you wanted to add? And I want to make sure that we are also being careful that when we have policy disagreements, that we're not putting staff in the middle.
I have nothing to add. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Councilman Michelle, yes, we'll take the last comment and then we've got to move on.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the majority of the report from July 8 came from the 2023, this is the pre-bill, rent regulations for Montgomery County and the rental housing market. The information on Montgomery County and Prince George's County, which is most related to our current housing market than Portland, Maine, and other areas, they did not yet implement the current bills, and then Prince George's County also changed some of the significant measures within their bill following that. My request here is really to ensure that with every policy discussion we have, that if we have access to updated information, we should be using that. I believe in the July 8th report, the average rent that was shared came from 2022 or 2023. That has now changed. And so if we are going to have a conversation on rent stabilization using older data, I think it's important for us to, at least since we have access to this, and this would be for any conversation that we had, even if I disagree, that we have the most updated data that is accessible to us. Why we're using older rental data, that's just not good policy making. And so at least my request would be to have updated market rental data, as well as the 2025 pipeline, and at least some pieces around the junk fees. And I mean, that's something that this body talks about and wants to have transparency around. Surely we should have examples from Montgomery County. And I will also say we could also use this data and information to evaluate the motion that was made on July 8th. Based on the feedback from the community and those most impacted, it doesn't seem to be working at all. And so I do think that having this information will be helpful all around.
Thank you. I want to appreciate all the varying viewpoints of my colleagues. I'll just note that trends based on CoStar data and the VRG actually have gone down since 2023. I'll also note that Montgomery County is still working, I believe, to hire their data person and share future data. I know that there's been some initial reports on the impact on multifamily. So it just seems like from a Montgomery County's perspective, there's still additional data that has not been fully analyzed yet. So in any case, we'll have this discussion next week. I appreciate the feedback of my colleagues and look forward to a robust discussion then.
The rental amount for Rockville has gone up.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn or any other new business items?
Motion to adjourn.
Councilmember Jackson made a motion to adjourn. Councilmember Van Grack seconds. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Thank you.